when I get a chance to attend the AU summit, which sits in Ethiopia, I have only one question to ask the members who have been sitting there before.
What question?
What have you been discussing for so long? What have you been talking about for so long? To the extent that some African countries are still fighting each other up to now. Yes, what have they been talking?
Or discussing?
Yes.
I think from today's game, what I would say is don't give up, keep fighting until the end. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. If you believe, only if you believe. To be honest with you, I'm always ready. I always tell my girls, like, stay ready anytime. You can get called upon. And when you get called on, go out there and show yourself. I don't know where that came from, and agenda must agenda. I get it, but I'm not bothered. I'm still here, I'm still playing, I'm still doing my job. That's what I'm focused on. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Oh, it's too much.
Yes, now. Which one is the sweetest? Which one is the sweetest?
Tell me. This one.
This one.
I say that.
I see that.
Which one next?
Which one next?
You do that, Remontada.
Remontada.
You know that TikTok? Yo, I'm kidding.
Yesterday in Morocco, Nigeria's Super Falcons delivered a stunning comeback at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, defeating the host nation in dramatic fashion. Down by 2 goals, the Falcons rallied to clinch a 3-2 victory over Morocco, a remarkable performance that secured Nigeria's 11th title in the tournament's history. Despite the high stakes and intensity, the match was played in a clean fashion, with neither side receiving a yellow or red card. Meanwhile, in Cameroon, political tensions are rising. The country's electoral body has officially barred prominent opposition leader Maurice Kamto from contesting the October 2025 presidential election. Kamto, who finished second in the disputed 2018 race, now watches from the sidelines as 92-year-old Paul Biya, currently the world's oldest sitting president, appears poised to claim the 8th term. It is 5:30 p.m. in Accra, Ghana, 6:30 p.m. in Lagos, Nigeria, and 1:30 p.m. in New York City. Wherever you are joining us from, welcome to another episode of 90 Minutes Africa. My name is Rudolph Okonkwo. My co-host, Chido Onoma, is on assignment. Joining us today is a very special guest, Dr. Max Siollun, one of the most respected voices in African historical scholarship. A British Nigerian historian, Dr. Siollun's groundbreaking work has reshaped how we understand both Nigeria's past and Africa's broader historical trajectory. He is especially known for his exposition of the post-independent military era, drawing on rare archival material and insider accounts to uncover hidden truths. Among his most acclaimed books are Oil, Politics and Violence, Nigeria's Military Coup Culture, 1966 to 1976, a gripping analysis of the coups that defined Nigeria's early post-colonial era. Soldiers of Fortune, Nigerian Politics from Buhari to Babangida, 1983 to 1993, a riveting narrative of political drama and decline in the 1980s and early 90s. Soldiers of Fortune, the Abacha and Obasanjo years, a thriller-like chronicle of the years following the annulled June 12, 1993 election. What Britain Did to Nigeria, a powerful examination of colonial conquest and its lingering impact, named one of BBC History Magazine's books of the year. And his latest work, The Forgotten Era, Nigeria Before British Rule, brings long overlooked Pre-Colonial Societies Back into Focus with Sweeping Clarity. His writing has appeared in The Guardian, Foreign Policy, The New York Times, The Independent, and other leading publications. Please join me in welcoming to the show Dr. Max Siollun. Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the warm intro, for the warm welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. A lot of people are looking forward to hearing from you today, and I'm glad that you made it. So let me start with issues in the news. We heard that the Falcons, our female team, won for the 10th time. And if that is not excellence, I don't know what it is. So I know you're a fan of football, and I want to know, why is it that the female team, Falcons, they're doing well, but the male team, they don't have that kind of record? What's going on?
Well, I'll say a few things. The Falcons, first of all, congratulations to them. Fantastic victory, statement victory, not just the fact they won, but the way they won as well against the host nation, being 0-2 down at halftime and 0-2 down with 28 minutes left, and then turning the game around to win. So it was a thrilling manner of victory. One thing I'll say in terms of your comparison of the women's team to the Nigerian men's team is we have to kind of look at the history of men's and women's football in Africa. For a long time, certain parts of Africa, for cultural reasons, didn't really develop the women's game until recent times. So the level of competitiveness in the women's game wasn't as severe and intense as it is in the men's game until very, very recently. So there's a lot of countries that were competing at this recent WAFCON, Women's Africa Cup of Nations, that never even used to have women's team. That's number one. Number two is also, I think, in Nigeria, there's a lot more focus on the men's game than there is on the women's game. And with that comes more pressure, more political interference, more interference from society, etc., than there is in the women's game. So I think the women's administrators have the added luxury of having less pressure and having less interference than the men's coaches and administrators. Then the last thing I'll say is, when making that comparison, it really depends on how you define success. If you look at the Nigerian men's team, they've actually got an absolutely incredible record in the men's AFCON. In about 80% of tournaments, in over 80% of tournaments, they reached the semi-final or final, which is absolutely incredible. So literally, if you have 10 AFCONs, 8 to 9 of them, Nigeria is going to reach the semi-final or final. The only problem is that Nigeria tends to lose in the final a lot. So there's two ways of looking at that. You can say that Nigeria is an incredibly consistent team when it comes to reaching the latter stages, or you can say that Nigeria are big chokers and that they reach the latter stages but can never cross the finishing line.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to Cameroon, where Paul Biya is running again for president. He's been there for 42 years, and he wants another 5-year term. Cameroon, like Nigeria, started as a federation, became a unitary state. I want you to give us briefly, what are the differences in terms of our history? Why is it that Cameroon is towing the line that they're towing? You have a president that could be there for 42 years, but that is not the same story in Nigeria. I know they've had a coup in their history, but our own history is different from theirs. What's going on?
So sometimes I humorously compare Cameroon and Nigeria to India and Pakistan, in that just because they're neighbors doesn't mean they need to have the same political history or trajectory. Just like India and Pakistan, you've had one country, a neighboring country, Pakistan, just like Nigeria, has a long, long history of military rule. Then you have next door, India, Cameroon, never experienced military rule. I will add a couple of caveats though, which is Cameroon has not experienced military rule, but it had an attempted coup. It's just that the coup failed. The other thing is that you have to look at Nigeria's ethno-regional religious diversity. Nigeria is unique, not just in Africa, but in the whole world. It is the only country in the world with a 50-50 split between Christians and Muslims. There are other multi-religious countries in the world, but what you normally find is that either the Christians or the Muslims are far, far away in the majority. So in Nigeria, because of the pressure for all the various ethno-regional interest groups to have their turn in power, you could never be a situation in Nigeria where one head of state from one ethnic group is in power for over 40 years. Now, in the Cameroon scenario, is when someone has been in power for that long, it's not always necessarily because the populace, the people, want him to be there, but certain powers become entrenched over those decades, and the person becomes institutionalized to such an extent that even if a significant segment of the population wants him out, the power is so entrenched that you cannot reverse and unroll that 40 plus years of institutional power overnight. So I think those are the key differences between those West African neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Now, Nigeria just buried President Muhammadu Buhari, a former soldier turned politician. You've written a lot about Nigerian coups and the culture of military coups. From your perspective, when this generation of soldiers turned politicians, when they die off, do you think there will be a significant transformation in Nigeria's psyche?
Yeah, so Buhari's presidency, this last presidency as a civilian, to some extent, it was the last outing for what I euphemistically refer to as the class of 1966, which is that generation of generals who became famous during the Civil War and from then on, from the mid-60s all the way into the 90s, that governed Nigeria under successive military regimes. Now, whether people like or dislike that generation of soldier politicians, they had a certain vision of Nigeria and for Nigeria, and they've been the guiding hands that have been dictating political outcomes in Nigeria for the past 60 years. And to some extent, sometimes when there's been crisis in the country, they've been the ones that have been navigating the country out of those crises. Now, the political generation behind them sees Nigeria very, very differently. And I'll answer the question with a semi-question, which is, given that there's this generational difference in political outlooks, it's going to be really interesting to see whether the succeeding generation, what vision they decide to implement for Nigeria, if and when they get into power, and if Nigeria's political system even allows them to implement that vision if they try.
Are you saying they are not in power now? I mean, we have Ababio, we have Tinubu. That generation, they are coming up. They are there. Have we seen? You don't see the vision.
If you look at their history, these people, the two names you mentioned, are people who've been in politics for 35 plus years. They were in politics during actually the latter years of military rule. So to some, and you mentioned the Buhari presidency. I'm not saying anything which the public doesn't know. We know who orchestrated that presidency. To some extent, a lot of the political leaders today are civilian colleagues of that class of 1966. So I don't think yet we've got to, just because they're civilians, I don't think we've got yet to a clean break of people who have no political connection to and who did not make their career under that class of 66. If you even look at the leader of the opposition, Atiku, who did he study his political tutelage under? Major General Yaradua. So they are all students of the class of 66.
In that case, we may never get out of that because it take a while for them to be out of the stage. I mean, people who grew up or who learned from former military officers.
I mean, the things that Nigeria has not yet had there's this generational asymmetry in that 2/3 of the country are under 30 years old. But then politically, since independence, nearly 66 years ago, there's never been a head of state that was born after independence. All of the heads of state were born pre-independence, i.e. they all grew up under military rule. I think the real transition will happen, and it's inevitable. One day, there's going to be a head of state that was born after independence and doesn't carry the political baggage of that 1966 crisis and the years of military rule. And I think that's when you truly see that generational shift.
Okay. In your latest book, The Forgotten Era, Nigeria Before British Rule, historians, some of you guys blame the colonial inheritance, particularly the British, for the state of Nigeria, especially with the military rise as a political actor in Nigeria and beyond. Do you think we've got to the point where we have to say, okay, they came, they did some bad things and they left, that we have to be responsible for what the country looks like now?
Yes and no. So I agree with you to some extent that at some point, the former colonized accountability. But then also you have to look at what are Nigeria's most serious political crises and political challenges and how do those problems arise. So we talked a little bit about military rule. Let's look at how and why military rule unfolded. So the first two military coups were an outcome of ethnic rivalry. Back in January and July 66, they were an outcome of ethnic rivalry between different ethno-regional constituencies in the military. Why did those constituencies exist in the first place? So you have to go back to the colonial recruiting policies of the British colonial administration. If you look at not just in Nigeria, not just in Africa, across the world, wherever Britain governed, they always had racialized military recruitment policies, i.e., they always sought to recruit what they called quote unquote martial races. So for example, the Sikhs in India, and they used that one martial race to staff the military and use it to conquer the country they were trying to colonize. In Nigeria's case, Hausas were their preferred quote unquote martial race. So for several decades during colonial rule, they kept recruiting Hausas because they felt that stereotypically they had soldierly qualities. But then all of a sudden, when independence came, the ethnic recruitment became liberalized and you started getting more Southeasterners coming into the military and becoming officers and commanders of those Northerners. So the military kind of resembled an ethnic sandwich. So you had Yorubas mainly at the top, Igbos in the middle, and Northerners at the bottom. And really what happened in the 60s and in the Civil War was competing conflicts for resolution of those historic ethno-regional colonial recruitment policies. Again, you look at the Civil War. A lot of the crises in Nigeria have emanated on North-South terms, who amalgamated, even though the two sides didn't want it, the Northern and Southern protectorates of Nigeria. It wasn't Nigerians, they never made that choice. It was the idea of two British colonial administrators called Lord Lugard and Sir George Goldie, who, when they were making this decision, admitted that the people of the different ethnicities in Nigeria were as different as people from Switzerland and China. Yet they still went ahead with this amalgamation and just left the colonized people to deal with the outcome. So while I agree that there's certain problems like efficient administration, corruption, you cannot blame the British for those. But the ethno-regional rivalries, which are just inherent in the structure of the country, I don't think you can divorce those from the country's colonial history.
All right. In the 60s and 70s, there were coups in Africa, even in Nigeria, that the people came out in support of the coups. Has that sentiment changed? I asked that question because some political observers believe that today there is a coup in Nigeria, that a lot of people might welcome soldiers back, despite the wreck and the history of military interventions in Nigeria.
So let me answer you the second part of your question, which is about a military coup potentially being welcomed in modern day Nigeria. I agree that there is that sentiment. I find that sentiment tends to exist among younger people. So like I mentioned, the demographics of the country, 2/3 of the population are under 30 years old. That means 2/3 of the population don't really have any memory of military rule, what it meant, what involved in the excesses of military rule. So what do I mean by the excesses of military rule? So let's just discuss some of the things that happened under military rule. A presidential election was annulled 32 years ago. When the election winner insisted that he should be the president, he was arrested and kept in detention for 5 years. Nothing happened. The wife of said presidential election winner, when she asked for her husband to be released, she was shot dead in broad daylight in Lagos traffic. No one is in prison today for her murder. A 78-year-old woman was thrown out of an upstairs window and died simply because her son, a musician, made songs that the government didn't like. Nothing happened. Nobody was prosecuted for her murder. People who criticized the government ended up dying in mysterious accidents or just simply disappeared. No one was prosecuted. So I think this younger generation isn't aware of all this, and they maybe have mistakenly nostalgic impressions of military rule. But I feel if they were aware of these excesses, that yearning for a military takeover just would dissipate.
Okay, so the National Assembly today is reviewing the Constitution of Nigeria again. This is not the first time, but this time they may accomplish something significant. They may create a new state, which has not happened under civilian government. Historians like Claude Ake argue that Nigeria's problem is institutional structure. Talked about laws and centralization of power that the military started. And we have now people like Emeka Anyoko, former Commonwealth Secretary, arguing that we need to go back to the fundamental in terms of writing a constitution that will be said or seen as the people's constitution. And I want to know, do you think that the National Assembly, that they have the willpower to be able to reform the country to stabilize our democracy and take it away from where the military took it to? Or do you think we have to really go back to the ideas that Anyoko Group are pushing for?
So to answer your question, I do need to go backwards and just look at the history of constitutional conferences in Nigeria's history. So let's look at all the constitutional conferences in Nigeria's history. There was one in 1950, another in 53, another in 54, another in 57, another in 58, another in 66, another in 67, another in 1977, another in 1987, another in 1995, another in 1998, and another one in 2014. So there's been 12 constitutional conferences in Nigeria's history. 12. So I would ask this two questions rhetorically, which is, what can possibly be discussed in another constitutional conference that has not been addressed ad nausea in the prior constitutional conferences? That's my first rhetorical question. And then the second rhetorical question is, even if Nigeria comes up with a new constitution as you and I are speaking now, is Nigeria a country that has a history of following rules and obeying the constitutions we've had so far? So when we are kind of thinking of constitutional conferences as this magic fix for the country's problems, I think we need to answer those two questions first. Secondly, this idea of state creation, one, it's not going to happen. As you, in the history, all the 36 states today were created by the military. 26 years after the military left power, there's never been, the civilians have not managed to create a state. The only state in Nigeria that has ever been created by civilians was the old Midwestern state back in the 1960s that eventually became Bendel State, and it's the predecessor for today's Edo State. That's one in the country's entire history. It won't happen because, one, if you create a new state, it will automatically have a right to federal funding which will automatically reduce the federal allocations to all the other existing states. Those states are not going to approve the creation of a new state that directly conflicts with their own interests. Won't happen. Then number two, as you know in Nigeria, if you create a state in one part of the country, all the other parts of the country will also demand states. So you're going to end, I think the last time there was a state creation debate, I think there was somewhere around demand for 50 new states, which are just completely unviable. I mean, some of the existing 36 states, not some, most of them, probably 30 of them, are unviable as it is. So state creation is not the solution, in my opinion. A new constitution is not a magic silver bullet, in my opinion. I think there need to be other types of national reorientation, and I don't think constitutional conferences are the answer.
Okay, let's go back to West Africa. In countries like Mali, Niger, Guinea, Burkina Faso, we saw these new waves of military intervention. And the argument this time is they're against neocolonialism in Africa. And this is gaining traction beyond Africa. You find people in the Western world, Black people in America, in the Caribbean, kind of supporting the stories out of Burkina Faso and the ideas behind these schools. I want to ask you, is this something that you think could spread? And there's also this idea that it's also a reflection of disillusionment with democracy. Is that what is happening, or is it a dangerous argument for military intervention? And then one last thing to connect all of them is, for instance, the French, are they going to fold their arms and allow this to spread, or do you think that the French will fight back by trying to reclaim their sphere of influence in West Africa?
So I'll answer the first part of your question first. And you said, are these coups going to spread? I think they already have. So there's a coup belt across Francophone West Africa. You mentioned the country, so I think that ship has already sailed with the coups spreading. Then secondly, there's a lot of Africans, it might be a controversial view, there's a lot of Africans that think that democracy, certainly Western style democracy, it's overrated. It's either overrated and or it is unsuitable for African countries in their current state of development. What tends to happen in African countries, and we've seen this even in Nigeria, is that an election is just another way of doing a census. Because of the ethno-regional divisions, when you have a presidential election, all it does is just replicate the ethno-regional cleavages in society and just perpetuate and replicate them in the political system. Then the last part of your question about France, I don't think that, in my opinion, I don't think these coups are a reaction really to colonial issues in France. I think this is actually a reaction to multi-party democracy of the Western format. I think there's a backlash against that, which is emanating in these military coups across West Africa's coup belt.
Okay, let's look at northern Nigeria. You have an active Islamic insurgency there mixed with militia, some of them Fulani bandits. And if you come down towards the south, you have in the east and the west, secessionist movements. Do you think that Nigeria will survive these raging tensions from every corner of the country under a democratic dispensation?
It depends. I think one thing that's really startling and illuminating about all these security challenges that you mentioned is, if you look at the insurgencies in the north and south, the so-called bandits, whatever you want to call them, demographically, even though they belong to different ethnic groups, demographically, they're very, very similar in that they're mainly young men. Most of the members are young men, kind of late teens to 30s. Disenfranchised young men who feel that society has not provided for them in one way, shape, or form. And it's an outcome, and this is the third time I'm mentioning Nigeria's age demographic. Again, it's an outcome of the demographic of the country where the vast majority of people in the country are under 30 years old. Now, one of the good policies that past Nigerian governments implemented was UPE and UBE, the Universal Primary Education and Universal Basic Education. By doing that, a tremendous number of children went through just basic education, primary school, secondary school. However, once those children went through just basic education, there wasn't a plan for A, how to either absorb them into the university system, or B, how to employ them with their now great expectations of social and economic and employment elevation because of their education. There wasn't a great plan on how you provide jobs for all these young people. So the lack of that plan, and today, I don't think there's a single political party that has a plan for dealing with Nigeria's youth bulge. So that youth bulge is emanating in these security challenges that you have mentioned. Until Nigeria develops a youth-focused plan for keeping this young, educated, but restless and near-mutinous generation employed, gainfully employed, I think those security challenges are going to continue.
Okay, let's go to recent books that came out in Nigeria. General Babangida's recent autobiography, A Journey in Service. Have you read it?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so in the book, he mentioned so many things and he revealed so many things. Two of them, one of them is actually the annulment of the June 12, 1993 election, an event surrounding the lead up to the Nigerian Civil War. What is your perception of the book?
So I'm not actually sure if the book told us anything we didn't already know. I think it just told us what we already knew, sadly, in far less detail. I think he could have, there's so many things he skirted over, like the VATSA trial. He didn't really give us an explanation about the June 12 annulment, other than just saying, oh, it was due to mysterious third forces who we didn't really name. And I also think that the book, to some extent, came too late. It would have been more, I understand why he waited until now to write the book, because most of the people he talked about are no longer alive. So maybe it's safer to write the book now. But I just felt that the book could have been more impactful if A, he revealed more, and B, he wrote it earlier. For me, the key takeaway from the book is not anything he included in the book. It's actually things he didn't write about. His decisions when in power had a really tragic butterfly effect. His decisions tended to harm the ones he loved and the ones that were closest to him the most. So if you look at his tenure, his big decisions, one, there was a coup where he had to approve the execution of his best friend, Vatsa. Then MKO Abiola was one of his closest friends. After he annulled that June 1993 presidential election, that annulment started a domino chain of events that led to Abiola dying, led to Abiola's wife dying, led to Abacha, who was one of Babangida's best friends, also dying. So if you look at his tenure, the 8 years in power, his decisions indirectly led to 3 of his closest friends and 1 of his closest friends' wives being killed. So I actually think the latter part of his life is tragic to some extent. And I would have actually liked him to talk about more. I know he talked about his wife, that tragedy. So it would have been more interesting if he actually talked about and realized about how his agency and his government hurt those around him, and whether, if he could go back in time, would he accept power and being head of state had he known from the beginning how it would just decimate those closest to him.
Is there anybody that you would like to have them write their own book that would be significant in terms of helping to understand what happened in Nigeria, the way Babangida wrote this?
Oh, several. The remaining members of the class of 66. So we have to give General Obasanjo, no matter what one thinks of him, He's written 3-4 books. So he's just been constantly writing biographies and updating them as more events happen in his life. So I think there's a number of people that owe us books. One is General Abu Bakr, that, the last military head of state. Him writing a biography would be really, really good. Of TYD, General Danjuma, he wrote a book back in the 80s, but I think it could be updated because that book was very, very brief. So I think those two. General Gowon, I heard, was working on a book. I don't know, another book rather. I don't know whether he's abandoned it, but another one from him would be very welcome as well.
What do you want Gowon to explain if he should write a book?
So the Civil War, it's what he's spoken about the Civil War on the record many times, but he spoke about it in a bygone era, maybe 40, 50 years ago. Because of, let's just say, changing political narratives in Nigeria, where the Civil War is becoming a topic of national debate again, really General Gowon is one of the few leaders from that Civil War era who is still alive. And he was the primary protagonist. Ojukwu has gone. Most of the people who fought the war, Murtala Muhammad, Shua, Bisala, they're all gone. So Gowon is one of the few people from that era who can speak to it authoritatively. And while I was talking, I just remembered another name who I'd love to write about the book. General Alani Akinrinade is another one from the Civil War era where a book from him would be tremendously valuable too.
All right, thank you so much. For our viewers who are watching, our guests will only be here for 90 minutes. We are used to having people stay here for 2-3 hours. So we have to hurry up and get key questions in and let you have opportunity to join us and interact with our guests. So let me ask you this. In Babangida's book, he wrote about the coup that was carried out in 1966, the January 15th coup. And he essentially said that it wasn't carried out by Igbo ethnic group. But in several history books, and historians continue to attribute that and call the coup, the Igbo coup. In Soldiers of Fortune, Abacha and Obasanjo era, you talked about a group of Igbo army officers that they staged a violent coup, assassinated the federal political leaders. Do you understand that some people take issues with that, saying because they say that no matter the place that the activity was taking place, they were not all Igbo people. They were people who were from other parts of the country who played a role, whether it's in Lagos or in Kano or in Kaduna, So to say that a group of Igbo people, that a lot of people had issue with that characterization.
So I'll do two things. I'll address the January 66 coup first, and then I'll address the other coups of Nigeria's history sector. So what I'll say is that January 66 coup, let's look at it from the perspective of every part of the country except the Southeast. Let's look at the coup planners and the coup victims. So the coup planners, you're right, not all of them were from the Southeast. There was Major Ademoyega, there was Oyewole, there was Fajiri, who didn't take part in the coup, but he was their ally as well. But the brains behind it, the primary ones, was people like Nzogu, Ifajina, Okafor, Captain Obonna, Oji. A lot of them were Igbos. So let's look at who they killed. They killed the two most senior army officers from the north. They killed the two most senior army officers from the west. At that time in Nigeria, there were 4 regional premiers. They killed all the regional premiers in the country except the ones who were Igbo. So when you look at this from the perspective of someone who's not from the Southeast, whether or not, I'm not saying it was intentional, whether or not it was intentional, it looked like it had an ethnic agenda. I'm not saying it did, but the way the planners executed it perhaps inadvertently, gave that appearance. My own personal view is that it was not ethnically partisan, but it was politically so. I personally think it was a coup by the then UPGA or by supporters of the UPGA to eliminate the NNA government. That's my own personal view. So that's my answer to the first part of the question. Then the second part, which I promised to answer, was let's look at all the other military coups in Nigeria's history in order, chronologically. July 1966, who were the key planners? Northerners. July 1977, who were the key planners? Northerners. February 1976, who were the key planners? Northerners or Middle Belters. December 83, key planners, Northerners. 1985, the failed Vata coup, Middle Belters, again. April 1990, key planners, people from the Niger Delta. 1993, Northerners. Then I'm not going to mention the 95 and 97 coups because I understand that there's no consensus on whether those were actually coups or not. So I just don't want to get into that rabbit hole. So given that, as I've just shown, every single military coup in Nigeria's history has been ethnically and regionally lopsided in that the planners and the executors tended to overwhelmingly be people from one part of the country. Why? I'll ask these rhetorical questions. Why is it that the January 66 coup is labeled a quote-unquote Igbo coup, but none of the other coups are labeled Northern coup, Middle Belt coup, or Niger Delta coup? Why is that? Then secondly is, are people from the Southeast in Nigerian political discourse, are they held to the same standard as people from other parts of the country? That's my second rhetorical question. And number three, are people from the Southeast politically allowed to get away with things that people from other parts of the country get away with? I'm not going to answer those, but I'll just pose that question to you. I'll pose those questions to you.
No, you can't do that. That's not fair. You have to answer the questions.
No.
I would like to know what people watching, they would like to know what you think about that. Yeah.
Oh, no. I've given what I think about the January 66 coup. I've said, hey, I've broken it down and said, look, this is what I think. No, the evidence of
Dr. Max, yeah. You are the historian. If you don't answer questions, who will answer it? So the good question you ask is, the coup, Igbo coup. Why is it that coup? Because I have it here as one of my questions. Why is it that only that one is called Igbo coup? The other ones, they don't get that kind of a label. You're a historian. You write these things. You're part of the people writing these things. So why is that?
So, but the thing is that the reason why I'm leaving that question for the audience is twofold. One, I want them to debate this. And two, I'm not one of the people that makes that assessment of thinking that, one coup is sectionally partisan, but the other ones aren't. So I want the people who hold those viewpoints, let's come on, let's talk about it. Let's rationalize, why do you have those views?
All right, they will soon be here. I just have a few more questions and then we let them in because really we don't have much time. We typically give them an hour to interact with our guests. But let me ask you about Babangida and Abacha, their relationship. I know you studied that. What do you make of their relationship, how they were able to run the country and the impact on Nigeria?
So they were great friends. Great friends for 30 odd years from the 1960s, from their time in the Nigerian Military Training College where they were classmates. That friendship also had a great element of loyalty from Abacha to Babangida and vice versa. And Babangida also had the added luxury of having a friend that saved his life during the April 1990 coup and saved his family's life, his wife's life, his children's lives, and who was very, very adept at keeping him in power for the 8 years that Babangida was in power. Now, the dynamic that played out was, at some point, Abacha became tired of being the Khalifa, the heir apparent to the throne, as he was then, and he wanted to be rewarded with his own turn on the throne. I mean, we've seen that in modern Nigeria now, where a politician who I will not name said a few years ago, "It is my turn." So that "it is my turn" narrative is not new. It existed with Abacha and Babangida as well. And when you look at that political crisis that emanated from the June 12, 1993 presidential election annulment, at least a part of it, not all of it, was a case of the deputy becoming impatient and thinking, "It is my turn now. It's my turn in power." And perhaps the incumbent not quite being ready to step aside and let the deputy rather take over.
Mm. All right, I have two more questions and then we'll let the audience come in. One is this: I want to get your view, a bigger picture of what's going on. China is rising, America is in decline. How would that impact Africa? I asked the question because, we talked about the first scramble for Africa under the Europeans. We now have what is known as the second scramble for Africa, with China leading. Do you think that Africa will do better under China than they did under the Europeans?
What I'll say is that dealing with China is different, in that when African countries deal with Europe and America, when Europe and America provide aid and trade, it usually comes with conditions and lots of strings attached. They normally make trade and aid conditional on the donor country or the trade partner adopting their values, like multi-party democracy, human rights, liberalizing their society, and adopting their values, etc. To that extent, China is very different, and from an African country's point of view, it's probably an easier partner to deal with, because the Chinese don't attach so many conditions. They're a lot more pragmatic, and they want to do business. And to some extent, they're far less interested in how Africans run their societies, and they just leave you to run your society as you see fit, so long as they are extracting economic benefits and resources from that relationship.
Okay. One last question on history. Nigerians are under attack in Ghana, in South Africa, in Kenya, in other parts of Africa. And citizens of these countries, it appears as if they don't understand the Nigerian. Peter Nahoro wrote a book called How to Be a Nigerian. Is there anything about being a Nigerian that our African brothers and sisters do not understand?
I really think that anti-Nigerian hostility in other African countries, it emanates from two things. One is, there's this saying that Nigerians have, which is, if you can thrive and survive in Nigeria, you can thrive and survive in anywhere in the world. And the reason why they say that is, let's just face it, Nigeria is a very challenging environment to thrive in. To succeed, you have to be ultra competitive. You have to be really ambitious, really aggressive sometimes. Where Nigerians see themselves as entrepreneurial, innovative, dynamic, culturally, in other countries, those traits can be seen as being pushy and being rude. They're not quite as forthright. Some other cultures are not quite as forthright and as competitive as Nigerians are. So I think, one, there's a cultural clash. And then number two, wherever Nigerians go, they're always a successful immigrant group. And throughout history, if you look at other immigrant groups in other cultures, they're always resented by the local population. And the Lebanese, Indians, Jews, other cultures that wherever they go, they thrive. What do they all have in common? The places where they go to resent them. And the resentment is just, let's just be blunt, it's out of jealousy and it's out of economic envy that the immigrant is thriving and succeeding more than the host population.
Will you apply the same thing to some of the groups that in Nigeria, within Nigeria, people don't like? Will you say it's the same thing?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of this ethno-regional rivalry in Nigeria, it's just a competition for resources. So the person who is hostile to you doesn't actually care to some extent about your ethnicity. they care about your ethnicity only to the extent that you're competing with them for the same resources and social opportunities.
Okay. One last thing. One of your books, Oil, Politics and Violence, you talked about how they interact and came together to determine how Nigeria is today. If there is no longer oil in Nigeria, or that is no longer useful worldwide, how would that change the Nigerian political scene?
So oil has been, since the 70s at least, the glue that's held the country together. Right now, there's a consensus on continuing the Nigerian Federation, perhaps not in the Niger Delta. Maybe if you ask them, they're probably the part of the country that's least devoted to, and maybe the Southeast, to national integration. But when that oil runs out in the future, I say all bets are off, and Nigeria will have to find a new glue and a new rationalization for the country's existence.
All right. Because we don't have time, I haven't taken any break, and I don't plan to, because I want to give opportunity for our viewers to be able to interact with you. So I have in the studio with me Jide. Jide, welcome to the show.
Yeah, greetings, Dr. Damage. It's good to see you, and greetings to the guests, Dr. Max. Good to see you, and I've listened to you. Greetings to Tony and everyone listening, and those on the comment section. So just to go straight to the point, like, I've learned a lot, and I've listened to everything Dr. Max had to say, and it's very insightful. This is my comments. Talking about the inefficiency in the Nigerian government, I would like to emphasize that I feel like it's more of a symptom of globalized capitalism, where Nigeria is being controlled by foreign powers. You probably are familiar with that as well. Like, we have some monopolies that are controlling our ruling class, the compradors, and they are agents. So a lot of the inefficiencies that we see are a manifestation of that. I don't want to go into details. A lot of the corruption, mismanagement are a result of that. Now, my question is, now looking at the chain of events from after independence, from 1960 up to date, we would see that between 1960 to like the early 1980s, we didn't see so much of the effect of neoliberalism in Nigeria until the structural adjustment program was implemented by Babangida, which I think you alluded to about the impact of Babangida when he was the head of state. And it was this structural adjustment program was implemented in 1986, and that had, and up to now, we see having devastating and monstrous negative effects on the quality of lives of Nigerians and the economy of Nigeria. And based on that, my own point of view is that the system we have in Nigeria is doing what it's supposed to do, which is the control of resources by the monopolies of capitalism and the agents that are doing what they are doing. It's serving its purpose. Now, my question to you now is, Dr. Max, is how do you suggest, or if you agree that imperialism is one of the major causes of why Nigeria is where it is today, how do you think we can defeat imperialism and actually go into the path of actual development? Thank you.
So, thanks for your question. I think just historically, you kind of started the narrative on outside economic influence from the Babangida era, from the structural adjustment program, which is 86 or so. I would actually go further back in terms of analyzing foreign economic influence in Nigeria. So we all say that, the country became independent in October 1st, 1960. Yes, it did politically. Economically, it didn't. Because you have to remember that even though the British political governors left, the business sector was to some extent still in the hands of the Brits. They controlled all the big corporations. So I actually think that Nigeria, the economic independence didn't happen until the 1970s, when the then military governments enacted those, I'm just going to call them the indigenization decrees, which is the economic decrees that stipulated that the foreign-owned companies in Nigeria had to give majority ownership to indigenous people. So that's actually when Nigeria economically started to become indigenized. But then what happened is Nigeria swapped foreign control of its large corporations, its corporate sector, for control of its corporate sector by a small clique, a small segment who had access to the government. Because you have to remember, 1970s Nigeria, it's not like today. Most people were not educated. Most people did not even know that the indigenization program was occurring. The only people who knew were those who were either in the government or were close to the government. So if you trace a lot of the wealth of Nigeria's modern day elite, you will find that their wealth started with those indigenization decrees. It was the people who bought the shares of the indigenized corporations who used that wealth to enter other sectors, leading sectors of the economy, oil, shipping, manufacturing, etc. So I don't think it's just a simple narrative of Nigeria versus foreigners. I think you really have to trace that line of British corporate control to indigenization to what we now have of super oligarchs controlling certain sectors of the economy.
You're on mute.
Thank you, Jide. For those who are going to join us, please limit your question to one and comments limited to 1 minute because we don't have much time. He has about 30 minutes left to be with us. So I'll call on Ngozika, I think. You're next. Go ahead. Ngozika. Ngozika, can you hear me? All right, Ngozika cannot hear me. Let me go to Tony. Tony, you are next. Unmute yourself, Tony. Tony, unmute yourself. All right, Tony cannot. Something is going on. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. Dr. Damages, thank you so much for giving me another opportunity to be on your show.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. First of all, I want to congratulate Super Falcon for that, bringing the cup home to Nigeria. That's excellent. So, I'm a sport fan. I have to give them. Dr. Marks, it's a pleasure to see you and to hear you on this platform. My question to you is this, since we are limited to one question, do we say Nigerian problem is the leadership problem or entitlement mentality, where everybody feel like they have the right to share of the wealth of the nation? So which is which? And can we congestionally have both of them together to solve Nigerian problem? So I want to hear your take on that, on my own view. Thank you.
So I don't think we can make Nigeria's problem binary. It's not just, it's the leaders or the people. I think it's multifaceted. And, wanting to share in the national resources, I mean, I'll actually pose a question back to you. Is someone who wants to share the national resources, is that person entitled, or are they just really asking for what's there?
Yes, exactly.
Right,
yeah, that's what I feel. That's what I feel, because since the inception, we know how Nigerians came to being together with the colonial master, how they divided our economies aspect of it. And then when you look at it, right from the mistake they made, we have never get it corrected in terms of of how that country is blessed with our natural resources. We have never get over it. So that's what I mean.
So there's this narrative, and I mean, there's even a book called The Problem with Nigeria. And the answer to the problem with Nigeria is everyone always says, or not everyone, most people say it's leadership. I'm going to be contrary here and be an agent provocateur and say, yes, leadership is a huge problem in Nigeria, but so is followership, so is the ordinary people, so are the ordinary people as well. So I always say to people, okay, leadership is a problem, but when that same leadership installs electricity in your neighborhood and kids from your neighborhood go and steal the transformers and steal the pylons, was it the leadership who did that? When that same leadership you deride builds a nice new expressway through your local town, and then kids or young men from your town go and steal manhole covers and then cause accidents, steal the bits of metal that are buried underground? Was it the government who did that? So I often say that, look, Nigerians have to look themselves in the mirror and have to do something which few human beings like doing, which is A, being accountable, and B, saying, hey, this is also my problem, and this is how I have to change to solve this problem as well. And if Nigerians just keep waiting for the leadership to solve all the country's problems and they think it's got nothing to do with them, they don't have a role to play, I'm sorry to say the country's problems will never be resolved.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Let's try Ngozika again. Ngozika, you're next.
Good evening, Dr. Max. Good evening, Dr. Damages. Good evening, everyone watching. So please, my question will come from the book Nigerian Soldiers of Fortune, the Abacha and the Obasanjo years. And I want to ask about the Ogoni 4 incident. You mentioned something now about agent provocateur, and the person that played that role was one Timothy Intoa. My question is this: in later accounts in the book, he was not, even though he was identified by witnesses, he was not among those tried for what happened, for the incidents that claimed lives. Even though he was identified by people as the person that said what he said, that got the crowd enraged and they went on rampage, he was not prosecuted. Now that's the first part. The second part of the question is this: do you see a link? I'm asking this because I live in the Southeast, and over time you hear people in the Southeast say, no, we are not the ones doing this. Somebody sent somebody to come and do this so that we will look bad. Somebody is using somebody to cause trouble. Do you see a link? Is there anything to take from that? That's my question.
So are you basically asking me for some of the problems in Ogoni land in the Southeast, is it outside agents provocateurs who are causing these problems? I just want to make sure I understand. Is that the question you're asking me?
Okay, Ngozika is in Nigeria. I don't know if she's muted, but I think from my own understanding of what she asked, that's probably what she wanted to know.
So what I'll say is this: in Nigeria's history, there's been lots of instances where state agents did use agents provocateurs, and I'll give one example, which is not related to Ngozi's question, which is the student crises in the 1980s. A lot of the cults you see on campuses today were outcomes of state security agencies basically deliberately planting agents provocateurs on campuses to try and infiltrate and break student union resistance to the then military governments. As often happens in Nigeria, they lost control, and what the agent provocateurs they planted eventually had a different emanation and became what we now call cultism. In the case of the Southeast, the Ogoni example you gave, candidly, I don't know. All I'll say is it's not unprecedented in Nigeria, but in those two examples, I just don't have information to give you a definite answer.
All right, thank you, Ngozika. Bumi, you're next.
Good day, everyone. Good day, Dr. Rudolph, and good day to the guest. I'm not 100% sure if you have already answered or went into my question, but I'm going to ask regardless. In your opinion, why did the military stay in power for so long? Despite clear public resentment towards them. And the reason why I asked this question, that is clear that, present day Nigerians, and you mentioned that, compared to the people from before, it's like they were educated, but it's clear that, present day Nigerians still are not pleased with the current government. But even if you look at past elections or you look at coming election, it seems like the same, game is going to be played again. So it's like, why do you think the military stayed in power for so long? And also, if you put into account, why is it that the same set of leaders that we have are still going to continue? And when exactly is that change, do you think is going to happen, or what's going to result in that change?
So thanks for the question, Bumi. maybe you weren't on. I answered part of it before perhaps you came on. So let me start with the part that I haven't yet answered, which is why the military were in power for so long. Nigerians don't want to admit this, but they were actually in love with military rule. When civilians were in power, they often campaigned and cheered on for the military to overthrow civilian governments. In fact, a lot of military coups in Nigeria were financed by a very, very well-known billionaire businessman who is tremendously famous in Nigeria. And I will say that the jubilation that greeted the January 66 and December 1983 military coups from the civilians was greater than the jubilation which welcomed Nigerian independence. So I would say, to answer your question, why did the military stay in power for so long, is because Nigerians wanted them to. There was never any serious resistance to military rule until the 1990s. So the military really governed for about 20 years with absolutely no opposition, or little opposition maybe. And I guarantee you, in the 1970s and 1980s, if you'd had an election between a civilian party and the military ran as a political party, the military would have won that election in an absolute landslide. So that's my response to that unanswered part of your question. Maybe just for the sake of the other people, I won't repeat what I've said. Perhaps just after we finish talking, just go back and listen to the interview online and you'll hear me answering the second part of your question already.
All right. Thank you, Bumi. Let's go to Greta Dodge. Welcome. And any question for our guest?
Hi. Good day, Dr. Marks and Rudolph. Thank you. I don't know. This is the first time Rudolph has invited someone and we don't see the face. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but you can speak up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, Dr. Marks, the question I want to ask, I read the article. When I think you listed 5 things that would have happened if Biafra had succeeded, and you say it would have been rich. But I didn't read from there that it would have been a successful country or a prosperous country. Because being rich is different, than being prosperous. Like Saudi Arabia. But again, why do you think that from you studying history, the history of Nigeria, do you think it would have been better for Nigeria to, then or now to be divided so that everybody would just go on its own? Because I came to that conclusion, like this year that Nigeria should break up because it's been taking so many years and taking so many lives. Nothing has worked.
So I'll say this. I'll pose a rhetorical question. When you say Nigeria break up and everybody go their own way, so there's about 525 different languages in Nigeria. So how many countries do you want it to be? 525? Is that
no,
right?
I mean, some people could band together and form a country. For instance, the Southeast, even though I'm not going to say that, we are kind of one, but language, we are one.
So let me say this here. There's this fallacy in Nigeria that the problem is, if the country broke up, all the problems would be resolved. Let me tell you right now, even if you broke Nigeria up into 6 different countries representing the 6 geopolitical zones, Nigeria's problems would just replicate in each of those zones. So let me give you an example. This argument about power rotation in Nigeria between different ethno-regional areas, if you had a Republic of Biafra today, I guarantee you people from Anambra State and Imo State and Abia State will be fighting each other about which of them should produce the president, just as they do in Nigeria. If you had an Oduduwa Republic, people from Kwara State, Osun State, Lagos State, Ogun would be having the same battle. So, but my response is, if the answer to Nigeria's problems is balkanization, then why in prehistory, before the British came, Yoruba people spent much of the prior century fighting each other. Southeast people spent much of the time fighting each other. People from Arochukwu and from Aba and from Port Harcourt didn't regard themselves as the same people. These identities that we have today, like Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, they're fake identities. They did not exist 200 years ago. So I think we need to get away from this fallacy that, somehow, if the country broke up, everybody would just be living in peace and harmony. All that would happen is you would have the same patterns of conflict just replicating in the new countries that would arise.
All right, thank you, Greta Dodge. Let's go to Obolo. Ovie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Rudolph. Dr. Marx, I fuck up for not reading your books before now. Excuse my Yoruba, please. You alluded to the class structure in Nigeria, talking about the class of 66, how they were able to head the country so far. But at the same time, you said that the new class, the new generation that are prone to take over from this class of 66, they have a different vision for the country. What do you think that vision is?
So there's been this talk of restructuring in Nigeria, which is right now, really, all the axis of power in Nigeria is federally centered. Abuja that's where the action is in the federal government. But I think there's a new generation of political thought that wants to kind of revert back to the 1960s era when the power was in the regions rather than in the federal government. So Nigeria is a strange federation in that, let's just look at other federations in the world, say America. So the states, the regions, the subnational units came together and created the federal government. In Nigeria's case, it's the other way around. The federal government created the states, which is automatically just creates this asymmetry of power, where the federal government believes that, it's the repository of power. I created you, I fund you, so that's where the power is. I think it is going to be tremendously difficult to reverse that asymmetry of power, because if you did, there would be massive, massive polarizations of economic and political development, because one thing that would happen automatically is that Delta, Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom, and River states would be by far the richest states in the federation if they were allowed to keep all the oil money. And the other 32 states are not going to allow that to happen. So that's what I meant by the different visions of political thought and national development.
All right. Before we continue, I see Comrade Murray. Before I come to you, there's a question I got on Facebook. It says that in your latest book, you talked about pre-colonial period of Nigeria, that you didn't talk much about this Igbo people in the pre-colonial era, and he wanted to know why.
I would say to that person, have you finished reading the book where I wrote about there's a chapter called A Remarkable and Mysterious People, which from A to Z is only about Igbo people. Then has that person also read the chapter called The God That Carries the World, which is about Igbo pre-colonial religion? So I'm going to be charitable and say maybe the person hasn't finished reading the book, but maybe answer that person by saying, hey, have you read those chapters? And why, after reading those chapters, do you still come to the same conclusion that I didn't write about Igbo pre-colonial history?
All right. Omoroye, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Damages. My greetings to our guests and our other panelists and our esteemed viewers across the globe. Kudos to your guest. I was so much impressed the way he dealt with the question of the 1966 coup being an Igbo coup or otherwise. And the answer he gave to the panelists that asked about the separatist agitation, sharing Nigeria into 1 million countries will not solve the problem. So this is a comment, and it will be followed by a question. I want to believe that, in as much as want to blame the colonialists and our successive Nigerian leaders, I think we are not sincere as a people. The division among the people, what we're doing to ourselves as a people, is greater than the poor foundation, the bad foundation laid by the colonial masters. Because what we're doing to ourselves today is worse than what the colonial masters did to us. And to my question to our guests is that, don't you think we merely addressing the symptoms instead of dealing with the systemic issues that is holding Nigeria, in perpetual bondage? we are not sincere. We are hypocritical as a people. We are not united. Our division along the ethnic, tribal, and religious line is enabler, to the politicians who are merely taking advantage of our disunity. Thank you.
Just because we're running out of time, I'll make this quick. I'll say this. If you look at other developed countries in the world, let's say America. America is over 300 years old. Nigeria is about coming up to 65, 66 years old as an independent country. So let's look at what was America like when it was about 60-something years old. Oh, it was corrupt, full of economic inequality, full of injustice. It was violent. It was full of racialized rivalry. So why do we think, given that the richest, most powerful country in the world had to go through these growing pains, why do we think that Nigeria is the only country in history that must go from colonized and become developed without experiencing some of the growing pains? So I would say we need to contextualize and understand that Nigeria is still an infant as a country, and there is no quick fix to development. It's not a day job. As they say, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Thank you so much. We're about how many? Less than about 10 minutes left. Let me ask you this question.
Okay, Bamiji, that's just one question now before you go.
No, from the comments. Oh, yeah, hold on. From the comments section, there are people who want to know why is it that we can't see your face. Somebody said, it's been at the beginning of the comments. Yeah, that why is it that we don't see your face? Somebody said this is the first time on this show that we have not seen the face of the guest. Do you have any answer for them?
Yeah, I do. I like having a private life.
Okay, that's good. If you want a question to be highlighted for me to see it, you can do that. I will be able to see it. I know there were some questions that came. I can't go back, but let me. Okay, Ovie, you have a chance. Just ask a question you want. Then
yeah, Dr. Max. So what now lies in our future? Is it the federalism is going to continue going straight, or the regionalism, or state autonomy like that of America? What is the future like? Or do you see us going through another civil war before we actually start getting our act together? What's the future looking like?
Oh, good grief. I hope there's not another civil war. Please, no, not that. So from my own personal perspective, I don't want that. No. So I think what's happening now, there's been political evolution outside the constitution. So I'll give a couple of examples. For you, the biggest political innovation since 1999, the last 26 years, is Sharia. That's one. Two is zoning and rotation between different parts of the country. So the question I'll ask is, where in the constitution are those things? Where in the constitution does it say that you can have Sharia criminal law? So you have 1/3 of the country is practicing a criminal system that's not really been constitutionally mandated. And look, there's reasons why nobody wants to litigate that. It's incendiary. It's a potential national destabilizer. Then secondly, zoning and rotation. Everybody has accepted that. It's just part of the national political consensus now. Again, it's not anywhere in the constitution. So I think that the way Nigerians have been innovating and politically developing, and it's part of what I and Rudolph discussed earlier, the political trajectory is now outside the constitution. It's just happening by elite bargains, by negotiations, and by verbal bargains which people obey anyway. So there's this great irony in that the things that Nigerians respect and obey are verbal promises they make to each other, but then the written constitution that they spend decades developing, they don't pay attention to that.
All right. This is a question from WhatsApp. It says, outside of your own books, what are your top 3 favorite books?
Oh gosh, I'd say I'm a fan of biography. So Bill Clinton's biography is great. General Colin Powell's biography is great. And then perhaps the book, The Brothers' War by John de St. John is also, the best third-party account on the Civil War that I've read.
Okay. Thank you. Victory, you're next. We have about 8 minutes left.
Thank you, Rudolph. Good evening from my end, and good evening to Max as well. My question is, I'm a bit worried of late that with the talent that Nigerians have all over the world, how come we've not been able to use our talent to fix our country? Is it that we're just big-matted people? We just like to make noise, and we're good for nothing. How come we've not been able to use the so-called talent that we have, that we possess around the world, to fix our own country? Could it be something that we're missing, or we don't know what is? Is this something that we don't know what's happening in our country, or we're just going around the circle? That's what I really want to know.
Well, it's about giving that talent you mentioned an enabling environment to thrive. So, as you correctly identified, that talent thrives abroad, where obstacles are not placed in front of it. It thrives abroad in a less corrupt system. It thrives abroad in a system that rewards merit and ability and punishes dishonesty and corruption, whereas in Nigeria, often it's the other way around. And this is what's frustrating what I call Nigeria's A team, which is the most talented young people, into going abroad. So I think very soon, or not very soon now, Nigeria needs to find a way of retaining the A team, because otherwise what's just happening is that Nigeria is spending tons of money subsidizing education of its young people for them to go and serve foreign countries.
Okay, thank you, Victory. This question is from AY for real. It says, what is your perspective on regional government as a means of devolving power to local governments to promote faster development?
I wish this was a verbal question, because then I could clarify, but unfortunately I can't. So I can't contextualize the question. But what I'll say is, government in Nigeria since the 60s, you started with the 4 regions, and the country just been balkanized more and more and more and more, and it has 36 states. So I'd pose the answer rhetorically is that, has that balkanization and increase in the number of states to try and project resources and political power closer to localities, has that been a faster route to development? So that's what I'll ask the question answerer, or question asker, I should say.
All right. There's a question from Blessed. She, I guess, woman, I hope, wants to know, can the guest pronounce his last name?
I'll let you do that, because we had a conversation about this offline, so I'm going to let you do that.
We did that. I tried to learn how to pronounce the name. It's pronounced Siollun. You put me on the spot. It's
Siollun.
Who said that? Is that you?
It's Ovie. Siollun.
Oh, no, that's not it. I'll write it down for those who want to know how to pronounce this. Seehonlun. So.
Now Siollun now, like swallow.
All right. I think someone came in now. Just we're rounding up. We have about 6 more minutes. Chris, your turn.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Damages. Actually, I was listening at the background until he said something that made me to come in. And that thing he said is that if we balkanize Nigeria, the same problem will come over. The same problem we have in Nigeria will continue in other places, in all the countries. And I beg to differ. I want to refer him to this Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe's speech to Igbo nation at Aba in 1949. Actually, anybody who wants to read can go back and read that speech over and over and over and over again. You will realize that the 1914 is actually the problem of Nigeria, which is the amalgamation. Now, first of all, the assumption that the governance, that Igbo or the Biafran or whoever wants to, or the Yoruba or the Uduwas will actually be the same as that of Nigeria is not true. You start with the first principle. What is the level of governance does Igbo man need in his life? And if the answer is that it's little, then you might also understand why they will not want too much government in their life. I give you an example. For instance, the judicial system.
Chris, we have only 3 minutes.
And I want to ask him a question.
Go straight.
I want to ask him a question now. You see, if for instance, the Igbo people want to go back to the Juro system, which is very customary to the people of Igbo. Now, do you not think that because of the way the Juro system operates, that it will be very hard for people to bribe the judiciary?
Okay, Chris.
And therefore,
we have to.
And therefore, the problem of judiciary solved as compared to what we have in Nigeria today.
All right, thank you, Chris. Dr. Max, I will put in one more question from CM, and that will be the final question, and then you can answer the two. CM, go ahead. 2 minutes.
Okay.
1 minute.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rudolph, and good evening, everybody. Actually, why I came in was just to pass on a remark to the guest, Mark Siollun. Mark, please, from today onwards, just drop this idea that the moment Nigeria, maybe Ndi will become themselves, Anambra will fight Imo will fight Enugu with all those things are just rubbish. You are too educated to be making such a guess. What was Ndibo doing in 1914 before the British came? Were we not living on our own? Have you had Okigwe fighting Newi before 1914? Have you had Omoahia fighting a Hamufi in Enugu State on Suka before 1914? This is the narrative that boxed Nigeria in so that we live the way we are and then people will be exploiting us. This is scaremongering. Please stop it. You're a historian. Don't peddle this type of illiterate rumor. This one will fight this one. It's a lie. If Ndibo are fighting themselves, it does not mean Yoruba will be fighting themselves. Yoruba can live their life. The Kanuri, if the Kanuri is making progress and Ndibo are fighting themselves, what difference does it make? We are different people.
CM, thank
It's a
you.
lie, please. Please stop it. Stop it. You're educated.
CM, we have to go. Thank you. All right. Dr. Max, your final thoughts.
Yeah, sure. So I think what I'll say, I don't think CM actually asked me a question. I think he just made a statement. So I don't think there's anything for me to respond to. Chris was saying, I think, that the Southeast should revert to pre-colonial institutions, which are, in his view, immune to bribery. What I'll say to Chris is, the 1 minute I have left is not enough time to answer your question. But what I'll do is I encourage you, read my latest book and the chapter on Igbo pre-colonial history. And after reading it, maybe reassess if you still hold that view. Dr. Rudolph, what I'll say is I know there's other people that want to ask me questions. If there is a way they can ask them online on the internet, I'll be happy to respond. I have to run now. What I'll do is I'll be happy if there's a hashtag or some way to forward them to me on X/Twitter. I'll be very happy to continue the debate later on online.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you and appreciate your work. I know that we don't have enough time for everybody to have opportunity to ask a question, but thank you so much for joining us. We take a break. When we come back, we do a review. Thank you, everybody, and see. Thank you. right. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for staying and joining us today for this conversation with Dr. Max. Let me see. Are there people who didn't get a chance to interact with our guest? Or let me start from them. All right. I think everybody here, you guys were able to ask questions and comments. So let me see. Let's do a quick review. I think KJ we have is after show. So this is just a quick review, and then there'll be wider conversation after the show. So let me start with you, Comrade Omori. What did you hear?
Yeah, I think it was another educative section as usual. You know, thank you, Dr. Ruda, for bringing wonderful guests to this. Yeah, no man is an island. No man has the monopoly of knowledge. To the best of my knowledge, he has done his, he was very frank and sincere in most of the answer he gave. He's not assuming that his answers is one fits all. So the question like the issue of agitation, I don't want to go there. If I go there right now, that will generate another tension that we may not be able to resolve in the next 1 year. So there's no point going into all that. I want to believe that we are not.
We are not scared of you. Bring it on, comrade. We are not scared of you. Bring it on.
Yeah, time for the want of time. A lot of people are here that want to hit, call for my head. I don't want to offend anybody here. So you could see what happened. You could see what happened. I wanted to buttress the reason why he said that. We all know that. I don't know why we pretend so much as a people. We blame the colonialists. What effort are we making to rectify the foundation? The 40 foundation they laid. It's always easy for us to blame our politicians. We blame the one from the north, we blame the one from the west, we blame the one from everywhere. And we'll continue to blame the successive leaders because we are not sincere. We are not even ready as a people. We don't really know what we want. We don't know where we want to go. We don't have plans on how we want to get there. We are always divided along things that are not relevant. We major on the minors instead of concentrating on the basic issues that are holding us back as a people. The politicians that take advantage of us, they are mainly leveraging on our own division, our own gullibility, our own naivety as a people. They are not tough. They are not as tough as we think. But we are divided. We are the problem of ourselves. Anybody that comes to Nigeria as a leader, as a president, I think they are even more. I think they are too sincere because we give them. We are enablers. We enable them to do to us what they are doing to us. The day we come together as a people to talk of what we want and how we want to get what we want, I mean, the tributes of this world will run away from Nigeria. They are not. No man will be stronger than a nation of over 2 million, 200 something million people. We are not sincere among ourselves. If you ask the Benue man to talk about the Fulani man, it's easier for him to talk about the oppression, the killing. But if you ask him to talk about the division, the dichotomy, the oppression between the Doma and the thief, he will be silent if he's from the thief side of it. The oppression they are doing to the Doma since 1999, why the Doma people have not been able to produce a governor, they will be mute because they know he affects them. If you come to my state of Edo State, on the oppression, I don't want to go so. I don't want to, toss a lot of things that, hit me against my brothers on this platform. We are not sincere among ourselves. That was the issue the guys was relating to. If you create 2-3 countries from Nigeria today, the East, the West, and the South, as the case may be, even before the Civil War, all these things were already there. Will you want to ask yourself, why will a Yoruba man return the rent he collected during the Civil War and return the property our Igbo brothers left behind, after the war, and the man from Rivers, we see the abandoned property. There was already a crime, there was already a bitterness even before the war. So all these things are there. We pretend as if they are not there. Why do we pretend like this as a people? So this is our greatest problem. The moment we come together as a people, recognize that we are first of all a people. Before we deal with our tribes and the religious, issues, that's the day we will begin to get our freedom. So the time will not permit me to go on. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Omori. We appreciate you. Let's go to CM.
Well,
CM, go ahead.
Well, okay. Thank you, Rudolph. As a review, to be honest with you, I'm terribly disappointed with the guest. You see, whenever you hear people say they are historian, was it Bob Marley that said tell a history without telling lies? What is it? Why is it that in Nigeria people tend to twist facts? Things that we can easily use common sense to explain. People tend to come and make, convolute it and make it look as if it's impossible. The idea that Yugoslavia under Tito was the person holding them as if he's an emirate, and they were boiling inside. The world said, nah, no more Tito, no more Yugoslavia. Is there no peace there? Is Croatia not developing at its own pace? But they will bring this idea. I'm going to where I stopped. I mean, I'm trying to take off from where I stopped. Why is the guy always say, oh no, Anambra will fight him with all this? These are just conjecture. That's what I wanted to take him on. There is no scientific basis for it, no psychological. In fact, it has no place in history. before 1914, was somebody from Okigwe fighting somebody from Nnewi? Nnewi is Anambra. Okigwe is Imo State. Was somebody from Owerri fighting somebody from Oka? Anambra, Imo versus Anambra. Was somebody from Umuahia fighting somebody from Enugu? Enugu is Enugu State. Umuahia is Abia State. Like he just making noise. So he was just, I don't know. So when people talk, so it is this scaremongering that is making Nigeria what it is. People are even afraid to say something. How were Nigerians fighting themselves or fighting themselves before 1914? For instance, the Igbos, were we fighting ourselves before 1914? Were we? Let somebody come and tell me. I've read an account by Professor Onwe Jogo. I've read an account by Professor Adiela Fibo. Even some excerpts I read from Kennedy about early existence of Ndibo. So when people come, because the British joined us together for their own economic interest, people feel that is a fait accompli. Let me also say here, I've said it before, go and read a letter written by Peter Smitens. He's the secretary, he's the personal assistant or something to the colonial secretary in the 50s. He published a letter on 15th July 1998 in the Times newspaper of London. He was trying, that was about 8 days or 1 week after the death of MK Abiola, 1998 in July. What the man wrote there was, they were regretting that they did not have the experience of Yugoslavia or Russia to guide them when they want to put Nigeria together. The word "put" ECC, he said PUT. They want to put a country together. How can you form a country for a people? Is that not and he's a historian. So the man was right. He said they did not have the example of Yugoslavia because they saw Yugoslavia as a country in the 50s. But they never knew Yugoslavia will crash. They saw Russia as a country with a country of different nationalities. In the 60s, as USSR, they never knew that Russia will crash. Even with nuclear power, Russia crashed, and there are 15 different countries. The same thing with Yugoslavia. So when Abiola died and he published that letter in July 1998 in the Times of London, he was saying that, well, they knew that there will be a problem, but they never knew it will be like this. So look at what a white man is telling you. So they are expressing regret for putting Nigeria together. Yet a Nigerian who said he's a historian will come and be telling you, oh no, if we go our separate ways, we'll be fighting ourselves. According to Professor Onigo Otite said Yoruba man, he says it's about 300 ethnic groups. Now I'm hearing 500 and something from him. That's what he's trying to say. You see, the problem with the black man or the Nigerian is that we are too afraid to confront our past. That is the issue. We are too, because we felt that we have to live to satisfy the white man. And then whatever the white people say, they created a country for us, we can never challenge it. Why can't we? If Yugoslavia under Tito, we are doing like this, today you won't have Croatia. Look at the way they are developing. So why can't we make a sense of our own? By the way, let us give an example. If India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh are one country, do you know what will happen? Look at where India is today. If somebody saying something about that, the Indians realized that at independence, they felt that no, we are different people. Let me go our way. They went their separate ways with Pakistan and then Bangladesh. Now look at where they are. Do you know that Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda were one country before, under the British? I think the people struggling for independence, they said no. Kenya got their independence in 1963, Tanzania 1961, I think Uganda 1962. They went their separate ways. Today they're not developing on their own accord. But when you talk, people will always point to you. So no, look at that. So I hate that aspect of Nigerian history that is coming there to come and bring. There is no basis in science, no basis in philosophy, and no basis in history to justify that the existence that Nigeria, if Ndi will decide to be on their own. Now the Queres are realizing where they come from. The people in Eka in Abo, they are now shouting, "This is who we are." Why does it not sound a lesson to Nigeria? Why is Boko Haram wanting to form a country of their own in the northeast? Why are you stopping them? You shouldn't stop them. So people will assert themselves. A time will come in the course of human development when you have to realize, you examine your life. Is this where we're supposed to be? Is Nigeria the way we've been amalgamated forcefully? Is it helping anybody? It's not. And then if I want to be on my own, people will tell me that, no. If you go, you slaughter your brother. It's all lies. It's all lies. This Ndibo has lost almost the equivalent of what they lost during the Civil War in peacetime in Nigeria. That is the reason. And now Nigeria are losing people every day. So what the guy came here to do, I don't know whose purpose he came to serve, but the history he gave was just very, very faulty. And the way I even see him writing, he might be good at writing military coup in Nigeria. That is different. But in terms of the very existence of Nigeria as a country and how we came into being, or what it portends for the future, to me, the guy just a wash-off. He was just saying something, I don't know. By the way, he didn't even show his face. So it was a terrible disappointment. I do not envisage such people to come and convince me on the very existence of my life as a person or as a people. No, he has not. He should be able to use others to come. Nigeria is the only country joined together by Britain that is still like that. And then look at where we are. Is that a good omen? Why did others get separate themselves and then live independently? Why Nigeria is the only country still existing the way Britain joined us together, and people are using it as a basis for progress? Let me stop here. Thank you.
All right, thank you, CM. Mr. James, I wanted to get you to join, but I think...
Please, can I say something before I leave?
No, not yet. Your internet is not very... okay, I think it's out entirely. Okay, Chris.
It's Christian.
Christian, okay. Hold on. All right, so let's see. James, can you hear me? Mr. James, can you hear me? Mr. James. All right, he cannot. James,
Mr. James, can you hear? Oh.
Okay, Chris.
Yes, please. Good off.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. James, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, James.
Sorry, my internet is very weak.
You want to come back?
Is very weak, please.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, Mr. James. We can hear you.
Yeah, go to the next person.
All right. So, Chris, come on. Where are you? You can come and say.
Yeah, I'm here.
My internet is very weak.
Okay. Thank you, Rudolph. CN has almost, but you see, my disappointment is that he lives here in the United Kingdom. Because you when you announced it, you told us that he lives here in the United Kingdom, and he knows that Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and England are 4 different countries making up United Kingdom. So they are not one country. There are 4 countries. And he thinks that, the way Nigeria is put together is okay. Now, I wanted to ask him one more question. When TV was TV and the Fulani marched, started their madness in 1804, they marched through Hausa land to TV land, and TV stopped them as TV. Today, they have been divided into 3 parts and cast into 3 rivers, River Nasarawa and River Taraba, and they are drowning. So when the Fulanis are killing them today, they kill Benue people, they kill Fulani people, they kill Taraba people, and nobody understands they are killing TV. Now, there's something about ethnicity that people don't understand, the power it has. The power of ethnicity in building a nation and in destroying a nation. Okay? If people don't understand it, let them go to Germany. Even though the Germany was divided for several years, when the Berlin conference, the Berlin Wall fell, it was very easy to get the 2 countries together today. But look at Russia. Russia failed. If in spite of all the, what is it called, all the power they have, military power they have. And I don't understand why they think that, if we move to different countries, we are going to have different systems. We are going to have the same system as we have in Nigeria. No, not at all. Maybe if Igbo people don't want to have too many government interference in their life, and therefore they may make the presidency less attractive. That people have to be in their house and be the president, or maybe you have part-time legislators that will not attract the people to kill themselves. Have they thought about those things? So sometimes when they come to this issue of Nigerian history, I've told them, go and read Nnamdi Azikiwe's address to Igbo nation. He talked about 5 things there. One, the hatred of the Igbos. This is, and when I say this, I want to put it into perspective because it is 1949. That is 11 years before independence, 17 years before the first coup, and 18 years before the Civil War. So if this hatred had been there, why was it there? It is simply because there is what we call competition due to diversity. It's a very serious thing. So when people do not understand it, then they come and say, oh, yeah, if we divide ourselves, then we are doing this or we are going to fight the same war. Not at all. Okay, the fifth one. Okay, he talked about the hatred. He talked about the lack of federal presence in Igbo land. He talked about the Yoruba and BBC media propaganda against Igbo. He also talked about self-determination. These 4 things are still being, are they not there today? Then the 5th thing he talked about is, he said that Igbo, because of their resilience, is positioned to lead Africa. This particular statement he made was what the Yoruba elites took as Igbo dominance today, and that thing is still on today. So I don't understand why our people don't read all the facts together before they come and tell us that Nigeria will survive today. No, Nigeria will not survive. Even if it lives for another 100 years, Nigeria will still collapse. So the best way, if Nigeria can even, if they want the name Nigeria to survive, what they should do is to go back to what is called natural delineation of the society. Natural delineation of the society. And this delineation is done through ethnicity. Ethnicity defines 4 values. 1, history. 2, language. 3, history, language, culture, and if you like, social values. So in the assumption that the social value or all these 4 things, that is why they divide them into Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. And let me
Chris, we have to go.
Yeah, I know. Okay, but maybe another time we come and discuss this, because basically this is an argument that they can never win.
All right,
they can never win it. Thank you, sir.
Hopefully another.
I will be listening from the background. I'll be listening from the background.
All right. Hopefully your internet will also be better. Victory. Victory.
Yes. I muted myself. I was listening to a lot of people speaking. I think I really joined the conversation very late, so I wasn't quite. I didn't know what the guest said previously from the time I joined. But I think it was a good. The brief part that I listened to, I think it was a good acting for the guest as well. But I just want to touch on what CM was saying, that when the guest gave an explanation that even though you divide Nigeria into 1,000 places, there will be crisis and fighting. I think people react differently to that kind of response, because if you look at where Nigeria is right now, how worse can it be than what I mean? How difficult can Nigeria get than how it is now? So that's what people are saying, that let's try a different system. Let's divide. Let's go a different route and try and see what we can do for ourselves as an individual people, as a block of people. And I don't see any evidence that will tell me that, oh, if Nigeria was to divide today, that Nigeria will be worse or better off. I don't know that. So, but if I'm being speculative, I would say that let Nigeria divide. Everybody that wants to go and form their own country should go and form their own country, and then we will know whether that process will work for any of us or the group of people that will form their own country. I was going to ask the guest that what does it think about this system of government whereby if we actually identified all the ethnic group in Nigeria, and each ethnic group has one representative as the federal system of government, and then they all elect one person to govern the whole ethnic group. So everybody, for example, now the Igbos, the Yoruba will vote. You vote for who will go and represent at the central level, and then and that system of government will be like, I want something that will be stable, not like this. Every 4 years we'll go for election, we'll waste our time, we'll waste money. So for something like what they have in China. So like the main point is that every ethnic group will be represented at the central level, and any decision that you're making for any ethnic group, somebody from that ethnic group will represent that interest in that system of government. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I was going to ask him, but I didn't have the opportunity to ask him that.
All right, thank you, Victory. KJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rudolph. It was a good
Let me stop you there first. This Dr. Rudolph, I've said it here. I'm Rudolph Okonkwo. I'm not doctor, but people keep.
No, it doesn't matter. For this program, you are Dr. Damage.
You are a native doctor.
There are some places where it matters.
In fact,
of your grandfather, don't forget.
Dr. Rudolph, if Nyesen Wike, who is one of the thugs in Nigeria, can have a doctorate degree, we awarded to him. What more of you? We give you doctorate degree now. That's it. So what else will happen? Can't you defend it? By the way, my lecturer told me that once you pass first degree, everything is political, so it doesn't really matter.
Anyway, but I just want to make it clear before.
No, you have said that.
Honorary doctorate degree, sir.
Yeah, that's.
How many people are reincarnation of their grandfather?
I don't know. There are not many.
You see, that is a doctorate.
All right, KJ, go ahead. Did you watch? When did you join? And
I joined as soon as I left the church. I joined and I listened to him. It was quite a discourse, and I like a lot of what he said. One of the ones that I like also is the fact that democracy probably is not for Africa. Because it doesn't seem to be working the way it's working for the European nations, and so we keep trying to do it differently, but we keep recycling the same individuals who have run the country aground. They keep coming, have a way of exchanging one another, exchanging themselves. It's like a relay. They're constantly ahead, and they keep exchanging the baton with themselves. And then they go back and queue up, and go back and queue up. That's what has been happening. So I like that part, where he spoke about that, and I also like the way. In fact, the guy is very cultured, I must say. His choice of language, and it's not like me who is cut and join. He's quite smooth. So I enjoyed talking, listening to him. Okay, but then I also have one or two, places I don't agree totally, and that is the fact that when people come and allude to the fact that the reason Nigeria cannot get better, and I think a lot of people have done justice to that. I don't agree with that. There are nations on earth that are just 2 million people. They've held their own together, and their nations are better than any nation you can compare it to in Africa. People are living good life. Okay, their life expectancies are very high, higher than ours, and they don't have the resources we have. So I don't agree to the fact that once Nigeria is, balkanized, then that means we can no longer be able to hold sway. I don't agree with that. Secondly, I also don't agree with those who always come with that notion. And I think that Chris did a good job there. That once Igbos are living by themselves, then we'll continue the same program. We are not trying to raise an utopia society. You know, we're not trying. The Igbos are not saying we are so perfect that once we begin to rule, once we have Biafra, then nothing will go wrong. There will be no loss. We have never said that. We are simply saying, just like Chris said, our values and principles are not working. Even where it's supposed to work, leaders of these people, these societies, are not allowing the laws to follow, to be adhered to. Okay, there's so much injustice in the system, and nobody wants to talk about it. If you bring it up, you are referred to as a separatist, as a person who does not want the unity of Nigeria to continue, as a person who is always looking for how to call forth. But you know that these fault lines have been there. They have been there since, just like, you know, Chris quoted again, the writings of Nnamdi Azikiwe, right, you know, far before the Nigeria was formed. And this thing has continuous. It's two things here, and I had an opportunity of listening to one of international journalists talking about why the Jews are very hated. You see, people who constantly are in a position to, you know, try to question the status quo, push the leads, okay, try to re-engineer society to get a better result, are never going to be liked. Are never going to be liked. And that is the embodiment of the Igbos, and we're not going to change for nobody. Okay, we continuously look. I said here on this program that in my community, we do not deal with stubborn people. We rather caution them, to tell them this is how to go about being stubborn. We don't say, hey, you are too stubborn. Oh yeah, take him out. No. Because those people are the pathfinders for that society. They question the status quo. They want to see that there's something beyond the horizon. I give an example. The thief man's philosophy is that wherever the sky touches the ground, that is the end of his land. Consequently, he is not cowed by moving to wherever he needs to find land to farm. But does it mean that the thief people are taking other people's lands and farming on it? No. They also realize their boundary, but they are always looking forward to wherever the sky touches the ground. Now, coming to the Igbos, are we going to now go inwardly and say, okay, we should now surrender and just be in a system that allows us to play only in the southeast? No. For the Igbo, our worldview is that we are not confined to geographical location called Nigeria. The world is our stage, and we'll continuously and constantly push that lead. I'm not going to tell my son that he confine himself in the 5 states. Why should I do that? His mates are not the Bill Gates and the rest. Are they all confined to America? What about the other bigger company, multinationals? Are they confined to America or Europe? They're all doing business around the globe. That's how our mindset should be for people who want to develop and move their nation forward. If we are really accepting that we are a giant of Africa, we must have a bigger vision and push beyond the African terrain. And consequently, that's where I stand. I want to end on that. And this is my last point. There was a Malaysia, there was Dubai, there was India, there was other countries who got independent at the same time as we got, or even later. They are doing far better than us today. We cannot say because the people didn't make it, America was 200 and they didn't get it. No, we have already read what they did wrong. We should now correct ourselves. We cannot reinvent the wheel. If we want to reinvent the wheel, then let's stop wearing clothes and let's stop wearing ties. Let's go back and begin to wear kente, and then from there begin to learn how to make clothes. But if we're going to move into drinking tea under the hot sun, putting our tie and walking around the street of Abuja, with ties and all that, even though it is almost 100 degrees centigrade, we then also should adapt the same way to bring our development to our community. Thank you so much.
All right, KJ, thank you. Let's go back to Mr. James and see if he's connected.
Yes, I think I'm connected. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah.
Yes, I listened to the man carefully right from the beginning. In my opinion, he spoke well, but there are certain things, there's something he seemed to, a belief he has about the military administrations. Let us give the devil his due. The military administrations from 1960s, since the Civil War till quit the scene, they've contributed a lot to the progress of Nigeria. all the universities, if I'm not mistaken, most of the federal universities were established by the military administration, what's it called, governors. In Bender State, where I grew up, nobody has been able to break the record set by Samuel Sagbobo Ogbemudia in terms of infrastructural development. And Lee tried his best, and Brifolosho Lee as a civilian governor. But among the military administrators, that man distinguished himself. During the reign of Yakubu Gowon, there were a lot of development projects going on all over the country. Millions of people were employed. He brought the Udoji Salary Review Commission when he felt that they had enough money. The industries were producing, but they were not able to sell their products because the people lacked the buying power. In fact, twice he did it. Simeon Adebo Salary Review Commission and Jerome Udoji Salary Review Commission. I agree. They were very, very high-handed. They had no regard for human rights. I think Wole Soyinka explained that in his book, The Man Died, Excesses of Military Administration. But on the whole, I think the military, they've done far more better than the civilians. The refineries, the what they call petrochemical industry, the power station, the renovation of National Stadium, Lagos, National Theatre, the projects are uncountable. In Bender State alone, Ogbemudia executed over 100 projects in 8 years. What has the civilian administration brought to Nigeria for the past quarter of a century? We should give people his due. That's the point. Thank you very much, Mr. Rudolph.
All right, thank you, Mr. James. Ovie.
Thank you, Dr. Dameji. It pained me. It pained me. I never read any of his book before now. It occurred to me like 3 times leading to this week, but I keep skipping it. Now when it happened to me, I was like, oh, it's too late. At the time I was contemplating, should I just pause you and listen to some of his different ones? And I think I enjoy historians that contribute to current conversation. You know, they take it from the history perspective today and pretty much on goals what may likely happen tomorrow, which is that's the angle I'm seeing Dr. Marx from. At a time whereby, whether we like it or not, whether it's going to be real or not, the idea of constitutional, whether brand new ones, alter this one. I mean, that's the conversation that is going right now in Nigeria. So I see that from there. Then I remember, I think it's about 3 years ago, Dr. Dameji, I was talking about a book called The Rational Individual, The Sovereign Individual by James Daly Davidson and Peter Tell. That was written in 1997. They actually predicted today. They were talking about how the information age we empower an individual to transcend nation states. In other words, with the advent of digital currency, you can actually do your business any part of the world outside the current constitution order of a state without even paying a tax. You know, you can live anywhere you want. And last year, where the discussion of Samuel Ekpa was at the peak of his, I alluded to the cyber nation, that the Biafran state might be the first cyber nation that will come out from Africa, whereby the government and everything will be digital, just like when Ekpa was talking about Biafra in Enza. I talked about that. People say, oh, this guy is just talk the way you want. So when I listen to CM, his argument, that he has an argument against, pushing back against doctor, that yes, they can actually live peacefully without necessary. What we are not I think what the soldier was not actually factoring into conversation is the digital age that we live in, right? But he says something very fascinating that I never actually look at Nigeria from that angle, that the development of the Sharia and the gentleman agreement is actually happening before our own very eyes, but outside the constitution. So the idea of the cyber nation will actually develop outside the constitution. So 100 years from now, I don't think anybody say, well, I'm in Nigeria, I'm from Abia, nobody cares whether where you are, where you live. But collectively, they can actually succeed out of Nigeria, even be president, just like Showore will always refer to. And having Nigeria is no longer Nigeria, mentally is gone. So when you factor in the development, the the technology that is empowering individual. I think the future lies between what CM is arguing about, that yes, they can survive without any central government. Because my argument about the regional government is that in the next 30, 40 years, each region will be like 200 million each, or close to 100 million each region. Then we will begin to say, oh, the government is too big. So the both of them are kind of seeing either from the past, but the future actually lies between that narrow argument that, oh, they no go fit survive on their own. They can survive on their own, but individualism will break all these apart. Because at the end of the day, if I don't need government to actually live the way I'm living, the way I live, then who cares about where I belong to? You know, who cares? The state as I live in America and ask me for address, I don't get address, right? I don't really care how we think government or anybody do. I don't care, right? So, and that community is growing, right? So the argument is spot on. I'm not going to criticize or see where it's coming from. Actually go into his text, because to actually support his argument, he said, read my book. There's a reason why he said each rock cannot stay together. So I'm looking forward to see why what happened in the past in different regions that make him come to that conclusion, because he's not just saying that for no reason. He's giving us reason why he's saying that. Fortunately, we don't get enough time to actually go into that. But I think I will encourage CM to go into his book and see maybe they go agree at one point. But I see it as a development, as a evolving conversation that we're all having, both across anywhere Nigerians day. Nigeria no go fit continue. We go continue. We have to do that. So it's thanks for his contribution to the conversation. That's my own take on that. But future lies on individual, not nation state, not region, not even family. The way it's going.
All right. Thank you so much, Ovie. Michael, you're next.
Oh, thank you again, Dr. Rudolph. You don't want doctor, but you're honorary doctor. We're already giving it to you. You can't take it away. Just accept it. We humbly accept it. Well, you're talking about reflection on, and what do you call it, on what our guests came in to talk about today. One thing I take out of it is he's an historian. And this is what I want everybody to understand, that historians, they're human. And they write the things, even though they do their research and everything, they're still human. They're still going to have their sentimentality and their influence into their written down history. So like Ovie said, I think we should be able, I will encourage everybody to read his book and see what you can take out of it in a positive way. Because like I told you, everyone and everybody, that when I come on this platform, I'm always looking for not to agitate for regional or tribal destiny. I always want to come forward to see what kind of solution are we going to create that will bring the country together in spite of our ethnical differences. That's my aim, because history will judge all of us here. When somebody younger than us or somebody future play back our sentiments, our opinion, and our idea of what we discuss on this type of platform that we talk. Because, and then when we have guests who are knowledge in their field, I'm not saying they are quote unquote know everything, but if they do their own work and they write something that we can all take from and take idea, then we should be able to allow them to express their opinion, and then we can, like you said, not to condemn them. Because what I see a lot of times, we try to, we are too judgmental to some of our guests. That's my opinion. I may be wrong. We are too judgmental. Instead of having our own criticisms or opinion on what we have, which is good. That's why we are human. We can never agree on the same level of points. We can all disagree. And to going forward, and what I take from him is like him talking about the military and everything. Yes, like Mr. James said, that's the good part of the military, which in the extent of it. But in terms of our, human reflection and the way the government is imposed on people, I don't think it's good. And for us, and I look at it in a longer time, and I know a lot of people disagree, democracy in terms of the colonial master or the Western world, I don't think it's working for Africa. Let's be honest. It's too expensive and it's killing us. It's time for Africa to decide to develop their own system of government where each and everybody is absolutely representative of that into that government. Like other gentleman mentioned, let's create a system that each tribe in Nigeria, we have a say. We have an opinion, and their say must be very important and must be gravitated to say, okay, let's move to this direction. Let's see what we can do. Now they're talking about writing the constitution. All of us sitting down here, what our own opinion about what is our idea of, can we put forward how the constitution we ourselves envisage or we look forward to be a constitution for Nigeria today. So I really thank you all of us, and I appreciate everybody's opinion, and I agree with everybody. It's just like sometimes it gets we get too sentimental to the tribal section, and we get centered away from the important issue that we need to discuss and focus on. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate you. Now let's welcome a real doctor, Dr. Bumi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Rudolph. Sorry, I was on my vacation. I just got back I was kind of pointing out to the Nigerian government going on vacation. But I guess I unfortunately did not listen to the guest from the start, but I think it's a bit sad that I haven't read his book, but at some point in my life, I'll read it to understand his perspective better. But if there's certain points I would say I disagree with him, is very much the fact that he alluded to the point that Nigeria is relatively young, and he compared it to America being 240 something years old. And for me, I think I disagree with that point because it's indirectly accepting the fact that we should be okay with our current situation. Because I don't think America is a good example. You know, the foundation and creation of America is not similar to the creation of Nigeria. You know, the makeup of the two countries are not very similar. But you can also have a counter argument to like Singapore or to South Korea or to Rwanda, all these other countries that are relatively young countries and are doing very well, better than Nigeria. So I guess I disagree with his point of saying, oh, Nigeria is young, so we should maybe have a little bit more faith. And I also kind of disagree or also understand where he's coming from in terms of saying that if Nigeria was to break up, there's the same atrocities happening are going to continue. As much as I understand his point, I also disagree with it because he also mentioned that the failure of the country is not only leadership, but the people. So if you were saying the same thing is going to happen, then you can also say that the reason why Nigeria is not working is because of leadership and the people. So the same argument can be given to the fact that if you were going to break up the country, the reason why those set of people are not going to work is leadership and the people. So if you can fix the leadership and the people, then those countries could work then. I mean, those individual part could work. So I guess that's where I would, if he could come back, maybe go more into that point of if having a one Nigeria means getting better leadership and better people, then what defeats the point of having leadership and better people in dividing the country? Why wouldn't that work? I guess that's probably a deep conversation that we should all have as a people, not just let Nigeria divide or let one Nigeria happen, but more or less like it doesn't change the fact that even though we all divide, we're all still going to be neighbors. Relating with each other is still a conversation that we have to have in the country and outside the country. So I guess that's probably where I would like us to have the conversation whenever that becomes a topic for us in terms of one Nigeria or breaking away. But so far, that's just my opinion or like my thought on the conversation.
All right. Thank you, Bumi. I had a question written down here about that I didn't get a chance to ask him about the United States, where some of us are, and it's going to be 250 years next year, July. And when you listen to radio stations here, they are talking about how to make it a more perfect nation. So they are still thinking about, and they one of them posed this question about, will we have United States for another 250 years? So they're thinking about that, and they have ideas that they're throwing out in terms of what they could do to make America last for another 250 years. So I wanted him to tell us about his idea of where Nigeria will be 100 years from now, because sometimes we don't think about it. We limit all our thinking to our time, this period when we are here, because in 200 years, if there is still Nigeria, it to be totally different from what we know today, what we think today about Nigeria. Anyway,
I think that's why I asked him, the next generation that they talked about are going to take over from 66. What is their vision? You know, what vision do they have for Nigeria if they're going to take us this far?
All right, let's quickly touch on the people. Hold on, guys. Let me go to Stay Humble. He hasn't said anything. Stay Humble, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Damages, and good evening to everyone on the panel today. Yeah, I think today is another day to assemble and rub minds and deliberate on issues affecting your beloved Nigeria. So, yeah, when the guest was here, I had the opportunity to really come in because when it was like 10 minutes to go, nobody was on to ask questions. But a few things restrained me really from coming up. Yeah, I think there were few dodgy things about the guest. Yeah, I tried to look up the guest on Google. Yeah, I didn't really see much about his background. Yeah, so I think there were a few questions that were begging for answers for me personally about the guest, and even the few minutes that I listened to him before the questions, started coming in, or during the question and answer section. There were fundamental flaws, really. I would say a big shout out to CM, for really standing up to challenge what we have heard for the past 2 decades. And even before then, that if the country splits, that the different nationalities will be engulfed in internal crisis. I think this thing was a very infantile submission, really, infantile sentiment regarding what will be for, because before independence and during the First Republic, the West and the East were at par with South Korea. Yeah, so I don't subscribe to the fact that that we are still infantile. So the next point I was trying to make is I think he said something about the military rule, the resistance that was posed by Nigerians to the military rule. He said that there was no resistance really till 1990s. I don't know whether he thought that we were just babies in history or something. I think that was really silly, to say that there was no resistance, real resistance to military rule till the 90s. That didn't make sense, So before the 90s, there has always been stiff resistance to military rule. Yeah, I don't subscribe to that. Then also the fact that he didn't really show his face, and really spectacular, I would say. And then also, I won't be surprised tomorrow to see him being a minister under Tinubu with Babangida or Okafor or something. Yeah, I don't know where he got his name from. Yeah, so I think those were the reasons why I didn't really come up to to question him because, yeah, I just thought that he was, he probably was another forefathers with British accent, something like that. But big shout out to Mr. CM for really standing up to challenge that really flawed sentiment of, yeah, that the nationalities will fight each other, that this and that and that and that, about the country splitting and the rest of them. Yeah, well, overall, very nice discussion so far, and very, very intelligent submissions, I would say. I don't have much to say.
All right.
Yeah, but I'm trying to ask Dr. Damages where he brought the guest from.
Thank you so much.
I was going to ask him that if I had come up. Anyway.
No problem. We make accommodations sometimes to have guests, people who we think we need to hear from. Part of the reason maybe why questions you have, and so far we hope that somehow it will enhance our conversation, to make people to think more about certain things. And I think we hopefully accomplish that. All right, Omori, you said you have a question or comment?
Yeah, a little comment about what you said, where we hope to be. For now, let's not deceive ourselves. We are a bunch of jokers. No vision, no direction, no mission. So there's no, have you forgotten the vision 2020, vision 2030? There's no blueprint on where we want to go, how we hope to get there. So anybody thinking of where Nigeria is going to be, if we remain the way we are going right now, we're going to get worse by the day. So there is no vision, no blueprint. If Americans are talking of where they hope to be, they're looking at where they're coming from. They're looking at the amendment they have made so far. They're trying to, they are not perfect. But, we're not even where America was. In America, the black man could not go to the same restaurant to eat with this, even if he has all the millions. He could not go to the same school with the white folks. He could not enter the same bus. It took a lady to say enough is enough. I'm not getting up from this seat. The Rosa Parks of this world, the multiplicative keys of this world. We are here looking for what to get. A case, let me give you a vivid example. All of them talking here. They went into a DC with, is either my candidate or nothing. Either my candidate, the obedient, either obey or nothing. The articulated of this word, either article or nothing. The ones that are following Amechi, either Amechi or nothing. That is the nature of Nigeria. Nobody wants to build. Nobody thinks about tomorrow. We come here to pretend. We are a bunch of hypocrites. We are not united. That is our greatest problem. And the politicians are even, I think they are lenient with us. With the kind of people we are, with kind of gullible people we are, with the kind of tribal bigots we are, with kind of religious bigots we are, anybody will take advantage of us. And again, the kind of leaders we have emanate for the kind of Nigerian people we are. Let's not pretend about this whole thing. We pretend as if one section is better than the other. No section is better. If we divide, we only localize the problem. Thank you, Doctor.
All right, thank you so much. Before I bring in Ike, I just want you guys to think about this. This is the governor of Abuja. He's not governor, not just a minister. The children, they were entering a vehicle and they had people holding the umbrella for them. Ike, welcome to the show. Where's Ike? Did he disappear? Okay, yeah. Ike, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good morning, good evening. Happy Sunday to everyone. Dr. Damaji, sorry, I only have two questions. The guest you brought, where is he from?
I don't know.
And you brought a guest, you don't know where he come from. How can you say you don't know where he come from?
I don't know. Seriously, I don't know.
He's a Yoruba man.
We were not seeing anybody. We are seeing cartoon. We didn't see the man we were talking to. We don't know we are talking to robot. We are talking to a spirit. So I don't know why you allow that, because sometimes we have to put our video on for us to be able to join the panel. So
yeah, I said in some special cases you make those accommodations, and that's
before you go.
And that's the decision we made in this case. He's an important historian writing on Nigeria. A lot of people have read his book, and the books are influential in the perception of Nigeria. So it's important that we hear from him. And that's what we did. We made that accommodation.
Okay, thank you. I was listening, going out, coming in, because you can see me, I'm with my office uniform. I'm still working, but I only want to speak on the area of when CMO was speaking. I was coming in and I sat down to listen. This idea that is being created in the minds of other part of Nigerians that the Igbos cannot rule themselves, or they cannot be able to have somebody to rule them. I mean, it's something that has been in the minds of Nigerian people for so many years. And I think it's a very wrong impression about the Igbos. There is no group of people in Nigeria that don't have problems. Somebody from Oyo State, if he have a problem with another Yoruba person, if he's from Ogun State, he will try to tell you this is Oyo State, this is not Ogun State. It's everywhere. So I don't know why somebody would think that the Igbos cannot be able to rule themselves. An Anambra man will fight Igbo man will fight a Abakaliki man. It's an insult. As an Igbo man at my age, is an insult, and is a letdown to my nation where I come from. If you think that we cannot be able to rule ourselves, then let us go. What is too difficult for you to do? What is too difficult for Nigeria as a country to do? If you think we cannot be able to manage our people, let us go. Let us go and die and do whatever we can able to do ourselves. Let us, if we decide to kill ourselves, let it be left for us. I don't want people start telling me that I cannot be able to, take care of my family, because that's what you're saying. You don't run my family for me. And I don't run the family of nobody. So when you tell me that the Igbos cannot be able to, they will fight for themselves if they happen to, if such a thing, if Igbo happen to get Biafra, it's like telling me that I'm not capable and I don't have the power to run my family. That is an insult. Because I trained my children and I have responsible children. So for somebody to tell me that I cannot be able to run my family, I mean, in every family you have 5 people maybe from the same mother, the same father, but our behaviors are different. The way we reason are different. The way we respond to actions are different. It's in every family. So why is the case of the Igbos different? So I think that if the Fulanis in the north, they are killing themselves, killing the outsides. They don't see them as people, and the people in the Middle Bay, but they are living together. They are the people that have been ruling. When somebody is in power, they don't care whatever they do among themselves. So why should our own be different? The man in Bodilon who is there in Asoro, is he the whole Yoruba that voted for him? Is he the whole Yoruba that love what he's doing? No. There are millions and millions of Yoruba who disagree his candidacy, who disagree his kind of leadership. So does he make those Yorubas who disagree with what he's doing to say they cannot be able to manage themselves if they become a nation? I don't know why Nigerians keep picking the Igbos. And listen, I'm a detribalized Nigerian, right? I'm an Igbo man. I schooled in Lagos, CMS Grammar School. I lived half of my life in Lagos. I lived in the north. And the best of my friends are from Edo State and River State, even as I'm still speaking to you. So I am a detribalized Nigerian. The friends I have are Yorubas. I have lived in every part of Nigeria. I visited every state in the southwest. I have slept in so many families in Southwest. I see myself as a Nigerian. So I don't know why people should stop telling me that they are more Nigerian than myself, because that is what your guest is saying. For making that kind of an argument against a nation like Igbo that are more than 50 million people, I think that is the height of an insult as an Igbo man. So I want Nigerians to not think that they are more Nigerian than anybody. You know, we might have our political differences. We might have the way we want to see Nigeria work, but at the end of the day, we should also respect every one of us as long as we call ourselves Nigerians. As long as we still use the same Nigerian passport. I don't travel with Biafran passport. Neither do you travel with Yoruba passport, or you travel with Edo passport, or you travel with Hausa passport. All of us are still having green passport. So we are still one country. But why should it be that others see others as if they are not part of the system? If you believe I'm not part of the system, then let me walk away. It's simple. Without fighting, without going to court, without going anywhere, let them listen. I don't want you here. Then I walk away. If I cannot find my destiny, it is my fault. If I die, I go to heaven. God will ask me, it's between me and my God, why I couldn't find my destiny. Let people stop deciding for the Igbos. We are capable of ruling our. We are more dedicated. We are more advanced in taking care of ourselves. We are intelligent enough to rule our people. We have every humanly resources that God can bless a nation with. We have it in Igbo land. We can take care of ourselves. We are not waiting for government. We are not even in the government. Which government have we become part of it? You only go to Igbo land to use the people that you know that they are OYS members. Those are the people that you put in your government because they don't represent the Igbos. They represent their stomach and their cliques and the people that they work for. Let people stop telling me that they are more Nigerian than myself. No. Because the man in our borderland is not more Nigerian than myself.
All right. Thank you, Ike. Next week on 90 Minutes Africa, we are going to bring a church leader who believes that the church has a role to play in what's going on in Nigeria. So we try to expand the conversation, not just about politics or history or media. We want to get to every aspect of Nigerian life. Again,
on our politics.
For those, I see some comments on the comment section. If you have a guest that you want us to have on this show, you are free to reach me, send me the name. If you have a contact, we try to reach out to as many people as possible from different spheres of life. It doesn't have to be just famous people or big people. It could be regular people who have unique ideas. So we're always open to new ideas and guests who will come and enrich us. All right, let me get to Kita. We're rounding up because KJ has...
What are unique people will get regular idea?
Yeah, not those that smoke Igbo.
You are discriminating. Okay.
Akija, you're next.
One Nigeria, Abi.
No, I think I'm looking for, I'll get Charlie Boy maybe next, because I think it's important in the conversation going on now. So I take that back about people who smoke Igbo. Okija, you're next.
No. We know. Sorry, Dr. Dameji, sorry. What I'm drinking is ginger ale. I'm not drinking alcohol. So for you to know.
Right.
Okay, I'm drinking ginger ale.
Why are you confessing? Mr. I, why are you confessing?
I wanted, I didn't want to, Dr. Dameji, one of the things bad about knowing you is that I try not to disrupt your show. Because I don't want to get a call, after the show to warning me don't disrupt the show. I mean, so the guy was when he was talking about the Nigerians, we're incapable of ruling ourselves. I just didn't want to challenge him. I'm happy that CM and came. Actually, I was the one who told CM to come to the show. So I'm happy that CM challenging me. I don't understand why people keep saying that especially Ndibo. I know Ndibo, we fought, but I know by the time the white people came, we've settled already. You know, Okeja was Okeja, New was New. You know, we settled. We're not fighting anymore. Things, you know, borders established. You know, and I don't think, you know, Ndibo, they had even after the colonial masters came, we didn't have much of, you know, boundary issues. It wasn't that, you know, like big. You know, there was, you know, small thing, but they were settled. And I know some people really things fall apart when Umuofi and that village fought, and Ikemefuna was taken as a was it what they call it as so if as a payment for the person they lost because of land dispute. But then, you know, Igbo people, they were not doing that then when the white people came. So I don't know why this guy, you know, keeps saying we had a system that worked. We had a Republican government. We were working. We were doing well. Even during the colonial masters, we were still doing well. We had a government, you know, working. You know, with the Omona system of government was still prevalent. Immun and the power was still there. You know, I don't know. So, and even if we were not incapable of ruling ourselves, we would have found a system somehow to come together and rule ourselves. Even like President Anambra, Nigeria, we've been talking about zoning, but there is not your bed. But Anambra has, you know, on reaching constitution, Anambra has started, you know, observing zoning system for the governorship elections. So I don't know why. Historian, I don't know the kind of historian. Maybe that's his personal opinion because he has lived long in the West. You know, he has started thinking like them that we are incapable of governing ourselves. That's, but Mr. Ike, you know, don't don't bust your vein trying to, you know, to respond to this guy. Yeah. That's
all right. Thank you, Okija. Let's hear from Jide.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Damages. I think I like the guy actually. He gave me a very different insight. To be honest, like it was very balanced. It was actually very balanced. I have some things I disagree with. I think he took some things out of context, and maybe because of the time he had. Maybe I'm not going to judge him because he didn't have a lot of time. He's the kind of person that if I have a conversation one-on-one with him, he's going to learn from me. I'm going to learn from him because the time, you know, now the time that he had, like. I had to just shorten my question, but I had a lot to say. So regarding the thing that some of us are upset about the fact that I said there was already internal fighting before colonization or before the British came, it was actually right to some extent. It was right to some extent. I don't know how a lot of people are upset. It was right to some extent. The Igbos were negatively affected by the slave trade. The Benin Empire, they enslaved a lot of Igbo people. Yorubas too were heavily affected by the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. The Oyo Empire was weakened by the slave trade. There was internal fighting due to the issues they had, the disagreements between, you know, how trade was going to be carried out. Because eventually the British, they abolished slavery in the late 19th century, but the Portuguese kept carrying on slaves. And as a result of that, due to the huge millions of people that were taken out of our region that is now Nigeria today, that used to be called the slave coast, there was decline in population. There was our economic system was weakened. He made it clear that our economy was hijacked by the British. He made it very clear when I asked that question. And as a result of that, our economy was weakened. Yes, they could. I'm not disagreeing the fact that there may have been peace in Aro Kingdom and some other parts of the Southeast today. I'm not disagreeing that part. But the point is, overall, there was a lot of ethnic tensions. And even if we divide, it does not mean that there will be prosperity. The ethnic tensions will still remain. We are seeing so many of that example in today's Yugoslavia. Look at the issue with Kosovo. Look at what's going on between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Even Azerbaijan and Russia. Look at what's going on between India and Pakistan. Just yesterday, Thailand and Cambodia. Look at what going on between on their border. So don't think that even if there is secession, if Nigeria separates, things will just go well. No, there will still be conflict. There will still be tensions. And guess what? The imperial powers would exploit it and they will divide us further. But I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Damages, I have a question for my brother Gina. Just 1 second.
So can I I thought it was my turn now.
Yeah, Jide said something I've never heard before. He said that Igbos were enslaved by Bini.
Well, that is a
The
new
Igbos were
history
enslaved.
for us.
The Igbos were enslaved.
No, they were not enslaved.
Oh my God.
Arrow.
Igbos were enslaved. Yoruba people
No,
were
they were
enslaved.
not enslaved. They were.
Don't say that. Igbos were enslaved. I can.
Maybe we have another. They were not enslaved. Igbos were there as medicine men. Arrow people were there as medicine men. Arrow people were there as medicine men.
Okay. It looks like Jide is a fan of Reno. Okay. Are you a student of Reno? Which is
they are
right.
Have you heard about Jide? If you heard about Aga Idunoba, that was the Arab people were contacted by Edo, by Oba to do whatever medicine for them. That was why Arab people came. Arab people, they are the most traveled Igbo people on earth. They some of them, they are in what's this country, Gabon, and some other country before.
There are a lot of descendants of Igbo people in Barbados. Even here in America, this US, there are a lot of descendants of Igbo people.
So okay, now I'm not talking about slaves. I'm talking about within even traveling within Africa and Nigeria. But the thing is, I don't know where maybe just like people said it. You are listening to Reno too a lot.
I don't listen to him at all. I don't even know him, and I don't like him. I don't like him at all.
Please. Can you tell us more about this history? Like 1 minute, 2 minutes, say more about history.
Yeah, no. Hold on, Okija. See, listen, Okija. You see, when people talk, whatever they say, you divide it into two. Those that matter and those that do not matter. There lived a man called Professor Adila Fibu, the first person to have PhD from University of Ibadan in history. He wrote copiously about Igbo civilization. All these things are not there. Chinua Achebe told you that you should tell your story, otherwise somebody else will tell it to you. Will tell your story for you. So there are things that matter. What I argue here and what I stand is for somebody to tell me if as an Igbo man I have the right to self-determination on my own. Anambra will fight Imo. Imo will fight Ebonyi will fight. What nonsense? What trash is the person talking about? The British that joined you together are regretting it. In an article they wrote in Times of London, go and read it. The people that made the decision, they say they do not have the example of Russia to guide them because they thought that Russia, being a country of different nationalities, will exist forever. Therefore, let them put together. The word is put. They want to put together a country. Because it didn't involve you. Then Yugoslavia, what is happening? Somebody can go and take example and then, it's like if you are writing something, you choose what you like. What of Croatia? What of Kenya? What of, what is it called? Uganda and Tanzania. Were they not one country before? People will just come and tell you. There's a book about, I didn't do it for you, about Eritrea.
Is Uganda
this was
and
the
Tanzania,
same. Hold on, listen. Please listen. What do you mean by prosperous? What is prosperous? Tinubu went to St. Lucia. What is the population of St. Lucia? Less than 200,000 people. He went there and stayed, is it a week or how many days? Are they not a country? Has they been taken over? Seychelles, a tiny country you may not even see in the map. Go and check. They ban Nigerian passport from entering into their country. So what nonsense are we talking about? This is pure scaremongering. That if you on your own, you become a fool. It doesn't mean I have to be a fool. There's no correlation. They are not mutually the same thing. You live everybody has his own level of civilization. So why is this scaremongering? Oh, if you be on your own, this one with all these ones are scaremongering. Please, people, that is the aspect I'm interested. If you want to be a beast of no nation, when being a part of Nigeria, it's up to you. But you can't use it to come and scare me and then tell me, oh no, if you go this, Shebi not use Okalo, go they rule you. Shebi na Rochas, all these illiterate politicians. Rudolph, let me say this. I conducted a poll. I asked somebody, people that are not Igbo, privately, between Peter Obi, Rochas Okorocha, Odus Okalo, Ike Kweremado, Alex Oti, can you tell me, can you pick a president from the Igbo and vice president? Overwhelmingly, number one, Peter Obi, vice president Alex Oti. And I asked them, you that is not Igbo, was able to know the best for the Igbo. Then me that is Igbo, I won't be able to know the best for myself. What an insult. What an insult. Do you see it? Right. You see the narrative of one Nigeria. All this nonsense must stop. Please.
Okay.
You can't be urinating on my head and tell me it's a heavy handball. We know exactly where we are headed. If you want to be a slave, you can be a slave. I don't care what other people be. But my own life, I live it the way I want. So somebody coming to tell me that Anambra or Kigwe will fight Enugu, Enugu will fight Oka, Oka will fight Umuahia. Everybody is an expert on Igbo affair except their own.
Can I say something?
Nonsense.
All right, thank you. Before you do,
just,
KJ, hold on. Before you do, we have 10 minutes. I was thinking that I could give everybody 2 minutes to give me.
I wouldn't even take about 2 minutes. I just need 1 minute.
Okay, go ahead. But
I just want to say before I go that we reserve your bullets. The second session you can bring it on. We'll be there to to give you opportunity to explore as much as you want.
Let's not be respectful, please. It's very
important. We normally observe respect in this channel, so we're not saying come and insult people. We're saying come and put your argument forward. And then the other thing I want to say before I sign off is that it's really interesting how people know Igbo people better than the Igbos. And Igbos don't like intellectuals, whether you call them historians or writers. We have so many of them, but you guys seem to know better than us. Maybe we should come to school in your places. You tell us our story. We can go back and update. But if not, I would have said that the Igbo nation has existed in that geographical location in Nigeria beyond the time that you can even... In fact, the Ekumeku fought the British for 31 years in that same location, where people are now claiming that we were enslaved. But you see, you guys know better. I'm just learning from you guys. So keep telling us so we can update what our fathers told us. Maybe our fathers were not right in their writing. Thank you so much. See you guys next week.
All right. One last thing. I just want to give everybody if you want to, not you don't have to weigh in. Where do you see Nigeria 100 years from now? 100 years from now, how do you think Lagos will look like? How do you think, wherever you want to pick on, how do you think Nigeria will look like? I'll start with you, Bumi. Nigeria 100 years from now. Remember we just did, when did we do 100 years? 100 years from now, what do you expect? Consider that the world is changing faster than it changed in the last century.
So there are two parts that we might take. We might either take the prosperity part or the same part we are in right now in terms of the same thing. We're still going to be dependent. We're still going to be, borrowing money and you don't see anything. So either we go on that part of like destruction, like we think that the past was terrible, you're looking for a big one, in terms of not controlling any form of resources, you completely dependent, whether it's on the West or it's on China, or either that part, or we as a people decide to be part of the discussion. In 100 years, we're part of the people who are actually at the front of, where Africa is going to be or where the world's going to be, hopefully. So I think there are those two options that, okay, we are actually using our numbers, we are actually using our brain, we are actually using the advantage that Nigeria currently has in terms of driving the whole innovation, whether it's in the science or educational aspect of things. That might be one. Or we are, the laughing stock of the biggest Black nation on this continent or in this world. So that's kind of where I see the two.
All right, thank you. Ovie, the same question. Where do you see Nigeria 100 years from now? If you look back at 100 years ago, the world was totally different from what we have today. So where do you see Nigeria?
An Islamic social state.
Explain in 1 minute.
The governing spirit would be that of Islamic. The economy will be 75% social and with the characteristic of capitalism here and there, but pretty much under Islamic social states.
All right, thank you. Omori.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Bumi, for your wonderful submission. We cannot continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. It's tantamount to insanity. You know, whether you say 200 years, 200 years from now, we'll continue to get worse if we remain in this trajectory, if we remain the way we are going. Until we stand up as a people to say this is what we want. We are just a bunch of jokers. We go nowhere. If you look at our political trajectory, the ones that came before these criminals, they were not perfect, but they were not as criminally minded as the ones we have right now. The Buharis of this world were not actually overreach under the military when they had opportunity first time. The Gowans of this world were not actually, wanting to take everything to themselves and to their families. The Obasanjo, before he came for the second time, was not as criminally minded as when he had opportunity. And they now felt after we had the likes of IBB and Abacha, this bunch of people that call themselves the owners of Nigeria realized suddenly that they made a mistake in the past. So their second coming was actually to kill, to destroy, and to loot. So if we continue the way we are going, we're just deceiving ourselves. Everybody is looking for what to take, opportunity to grab from the national cake, not the national interest. So when people come here to talk as if when you give somebody a chance, you will turn around Nigeria in 4 years. I just wish I have the power to make the person president today and see what will happen after, even if you give him 8 years, until we begin to address the fundamental issues, the systemic problem of Nigeria. No Messiah, no angel can fix Nigeria even in 20 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Stay humble. Where do you see Nigeria in 100 years from now?
Yeah. So we should not deceive ourselves, really. Where Nigeria will be in the next 100 years depends on what we do today. See, the solution to the problem we're facing is where were we 150 years ago, right? So till we all come together, the tribal nationalities should come together to tell themselves the gospel truth that, look, Nigeria is not working, and then decide on what to do, either collectively or individually. That will determine where Nigeria will be in the next 100 years. They should all come together to say, this is how we want to run Nigeria. This is the kind of government we have. This is how we want to live together. The country will remain in the next 100 years, either as a country, a single country, or a subcontinent. So till they come together to tell themselves the truth that, look, Nigeria is not working, and then deliberate and decide on the way forward, that will determine where Nigeria will be in the next 100 years.
All right, thank you. Ike, while I was speaking with Dr. Marx, someone made a comment. I said that America is in decline, that China is rising. People sometimes fight with facts that we know. Even in America, they know that China is rising. I read somewhere that Russia doesn't have any active aircraft carrier. They don't have any left. The last one is not active. But China has 3, and they're building another 2. They will catch up with America. So there are some things that we can debate that is happening. The world is transforming, changing. Where do you see Nigeria 100 years from now?
Dr. Damages, we are seeing in 100 years, there will not be a country called Nigeria in 100 years. That's what I see. There is not going to be a nation called Nigeria in the next 100 years right now. That is my conviction. I'm not going to add anything to it. There is not going to be a country called Nigeria in the next 100 years.
All right, thank you. Okija, 100 years from now.
Yeah, it depends on what's going to happen this coming election. If Nigeria gets a transformative leader, that will shift the goal or the road we're on. And if the West, keeps prospering, that means that a lot of us, will be going outside, leaving Nigeria. And the most that will be affected is Igbo land will be so much affected first. And you see, as you see the foreigners or the Fulani foreigners or whatever coming down from Middle Belt. They're gonna take over Benue State, as we, and they're gonna take over the southeastern Nigeria, and then it's gonna be like that. So probably in the next 100 years, you see most of southern Nigeria being dominated by foreigners who are not indigenous to those areas. People from outside, people from the north, from Nigeria, from wherever they are from, Hausa, Fulani, going to dominate, the southern part of Nigeria. So Nigeria will be regressing, and probably, by before 100 years, it will be like Afghanistan. What we have in Afghanistan right now. It's gonna be an Islamic country. That's the way I see Nigeria.
All right, thank you, Kija. CM, 100 years from now.
Well, Rudolph, to me, you are too ambitious to even be projecting 100 years. I thought, given our experience, I'm speaking for myself anyway, should have been a piecemeal of every 5 years. You say, where will Nigeria be in the next 10 years, or after 10 years, how will it be? Because that is my, but since you've chosen 100 years, I will hazard a guess. Two guesses. Either that Nigeria is no more, because Nigeria is a product of forced amalgamation. It's always written forced. Like the letter article I'm sharing to people on my WhatsApp forum now. That is one. Two, or if Nigeria is existing, Ndi Igbo will not be part of it. It will still be Nigeria. I don't know the fear. Maybe others, Professor Onigo Tite said there are about 300 ethnic groups. So if one ethnic group get out, you still have about 290 or 90 something. So they can still be existing. That is just the two scenarios. Ndi Igbo cannot be part of Nigeria for long. The signs are there. Not because we want to become shake the world, no. But there's something called what they call fulfillment. You live your life the way you want it. Yes, we are good neighbor, but this idea you force people by our nature, we don't do. That's why we are Republicans. People criticize us for that, but there's no God. That's the way God created us. We are Republicans. We do things by consensus, in which the market square is taken as the hallowed chamber where debates are conducted. For those that ratings fall apart, any serious thing is discussed at the market square. After that, to your tent, to Israel, you go back to your house. That is just the thing. So forcing us together with people with different level of civilization or different thing, just to serve British purpose, it has outlived its usefulness. So if Nigeria must exist in the next 100 years, Ndibo won't be part of it. But I don't wish anybody. The fact that I want us, Ndibo may exist doesn't mean that others cannot remain. Please, I'm not deciding for anybody, but let nobody decide for us. So that is just the way it is. I don't begrudge anybody. Anybody can live his life the way they want. Eritrea is different from Ethiopia. Djibouti is different from Ethiopia. They were once one country. Different level of development. That's what it should be. Seychelles is a tiny country. St. Lucia is a tiny country. Nobody has taken them over. But Tinubu went here and be promising them scholarship. A country of less than 200,000. So that tells you you can be a country. No matter population is not a determinant of what will make a country viable, or maybe location or access to the sea. They say, look at Rwanda, very tiny. 2 or 3 states are bigger than Rwanda in Nigeria, yet they are their own country and they are doing well. So this is what we guide. This is what guides my Disney. I don't tolerate people coming to tell me, use utopian Nigeria, we shake the world, we are this, we are all those ones are boo-boo. There is no historical, scientific, or philosophical evidence to underpin it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, CM. Last, I think, is Jide. Jide, before you speak, let me just recap. There's this new publication about the GDP, the top 20 countries in the world. I was surprised. I always know that America is number one, and I looked at the figure. GDP is 30 trillion. China is coming up very fast, and it's at 19.53 trillion. The next one is Germany at 4.92. United Kingdom has been going down. If you see how in the 50s or 60s or early 1914 and check, United Kingdom is number 6, I think. And I thought about what Tinubu told us that when he came in, that by the time he leaves, he will get the GDP to $1 trillion. Dollars. And if that should happen, Nigeria will be on the top, maybe about 15th country in the world. So I say this to say that it's always easy for us to look at the negative things about Nigeria, how things are bad, and they are bad, quite all right. But if Nigeria should be turned around by some magic, the story will be different. Because if you look at this table, you see Indonesia is up there, Brazil is up there. All these countries we used to know about, Canada, Italy, France, they're going down. And nobody can stop it. In fact, historically, there's nothing anybody can do actually to change the trajectory. That the next, I think next 50 years, the countries that will be on top in terms of the economy will not be the traditional countries we see. All right, so what's your take on Nigeria 200 years from now?
1 minute is not enough. Well, I'll answer your final question. I have a lot to say what you just said, but I'll give the final answer to where Nigeria is going to be in the next 100 years. So from what I have, like I said, I have where I disagree with the man, but the point is, in the next 100 years, it is the will of the Nigerian people to know the root cause of the problem. And the root cause of the problem is imperialism. Imperialism means controlling, using transnational multinational corporations and their vestiges to control a country's resources and dominate a country and extract profits at the detriment of the people. That's what imperialism is. And imperialism is characterized by expansion. And Nigeria is a product of that imperialism. Now, what's the solution? This is the will of the Nigerian people to actually have a radical shift in their thinking and carry out a real revolution that will take power from the bourgeoisie or the compradors. I'm talking about the Tinubus, the Atiku, the Peter Obi, all those guys. Take power, complete power, do a revolutionary change that will benefit the working class people of Nigeria. And after you do that, then you fight the proxies, the Fulani militias, and the imperialists. When you fight and you defeat them, Nigeria will be a prosperous and better nation. That's my answer. Thank you.
Oh, so based on the fact that that will not happen in another 100 years or 200 years. So where are we going? What's the option? All the things you said will not happen. So where do we go? Is there any country where it has happened?
So many countries. Iran is one example. Cuba is another example. North Korea is another example. Russia is another example. China is another example. So many. I can give many examples. Venezuela, Bolivia, some are doing extremely well, some are still struggling due to economic sanctions.
Other than China, I don't see any of the ones you mentioned.
Russia is another example. The Soviet Union is another example.
Russia is not on the top 10, you know that?
Yeah, well, so that's why I said I don't have a lot of time. But if I'm going to respond to that, GDP does not necessarily correlate with improvements in the quality of life of people. America has the highest GDP, but when you talk about homelessness and healthcare, America has the worst healthcare across the developed countries in the world. When you talk about homelessness, America is the worst developed countries in the world. So GDP, Indonesia, for crying out loud, they have very high GDP, but they have a very huge number of poor people in Indonesia. I think the poverty rate in Bolivia is lower than that of Indonesia. Meanwhile, Indonesia has a higher GDP. So GDP does not necessarily equate to prosperity or, it doesn't actually correlate with improvements in quality of life. But I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you so much. On that note, I want to thank everybody that joined me. The other stream is going to be on. I think if it's not yet on, we are KJ. We continue the conversation on what we had from our guests. I want to thank everybody that joined me. Jide, thank you so much for being here.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Ike, thank you so much. Stay humble. Thank you, comrade. Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you, Okija. Thank you, and CM. Thank you so much. Let me thank those that supported us by donating. Live TV. How do we stop CM? Okay. Those that supported us. AY, for real, thank you so much for supporting us. Kulata, thank you so much. Real IK, thank you so much. Now, for those who want to, sometimes people may want to join and have their questions, because we do have questions come up on the comment section sometimes. If you do a little super chat to help us to continue to produce this program, your question will get priority. I'm sorry, that's the way it works. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. And like I said, next Sunday, we'll have another interesting guest, man of God, joining us. So we are going to bring church people to have their say. All right. Thank you, everybody. On behalf of those who work behind the scene, I'll see you guys next week.